The rain hammered Caleb's windshield like 1,000 tiny fists demanding payment he couldn't afford. 3 weeks. That's all the time standing between him and the moment a judge might strip away the only thing that mattered, his daughter. The fraud charges were lies, all lies. But truth doesn't always win in a courtroom when you can't afford the lawyers who know how to sell it. His knuckles whitened on the steering wheel as his headlights caught something that would change everything. A luxury red sedan, hood up, hazards blinking weakly through the downpour, and a woman's silhouette shivering beside it like a ghost waiting to be saved or forgotten. If you want to know how one decision in a storm can rewrite your entire life, stay with me until the end. And hey, drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Now let's go back to where it all began. Chapter 1. The Weight of Everything. Caleb Mercer's life had become a series of countdowns. 21 days until the trial that would determine whether Lily stayed his daughter or became another case file in the foster system. 14 hours since he'd slept more than 90 minutes straight. $6.37 in his checking account, and exactly 0 good options. The rain had started just after midnight, right when his shift at the warehouse ended. Fat drops that turned into sheets, then walls, until the highway became a dark river with painted lines suggesting where the road might be. His truck, a 2004 Silverado that burned oil and made concerning noises in third gear, pushed through the weather with the grim determination of a vehicle that understood it wasn't allowed to die yet. Caleb's phone sat face down on the passenger seat. He couldn't look at it. Couldn't bear to see the lawyer's last text message again. We need to talk about realistic expectations. Realistic expectations. That was lawyer speak for you're going to lose. His daughter's face flickered through his mind. Lily at 7 years old, gap-toothed and brilliant, with his late wife's dark curls and a laugh that could reset his entire world. She didn't know how bad things were. Caleb had gotten very good at smiling through the fear, at making boxed mac and cheese feel like a feast, at pretending the nights he spent pacing the kitchen with mounting legal bills were just daddy doing boring grown-up stuff. But Lily wasn't stupid. She'd noticed he'd sold the TV, noticed they'd stopped going to the diner on Sundays, noticed the way he held his breath every time his phone rang. The accusations were insane: embezzlement, falsified records, theft from the construction company where he'd worked for 6 years. None of it true. Every single charge a manufactured lie built by someone who'd needed a scapegoat when money went missing from project accounts. And Caleb, with his lack of connections, his blue-collar background, his inability to hire the kind of defense that could shred a prosecution before breakfast, he was the perfect target. The evidence looked damning. Documents with his forged signature, transactions routed through accounts that had his name attached, a paper trail so clean it screamed professional setup, but convincing enough that his own lawyer kept using words like uphill battle and plea bargain. Caleb would rather die than plead guilty to something he didn't do, but he'd die faster than let Lily grow up thinking her father was a thief. The windshield wipers beat a rhythm that matched his pulse. Not enough, not enough, not enough. He was maybe 10 miles from home, from the small rental house where Lily was sleeping under her grandmother's watch, when his headlights caught the sedan. It sat canted on the shoulder like an expensive mistake, hazard lights blinking amber ghosts through the rain. The hood was up, propped with what looked like a coat hanger, and beside it, barely visible through the storm, a figure in what might have once been business clothes stood with arms wrapped around itself, soaked to the bone. Caleb's foot moved toward the brake, then hesitated. Every instinct screamed the same warning: don't stop. You can't afford complications. You have enough problems. Someone else will help. Keep driving. But his conscience, that stubborn, inconvenient voice that sounded too much like his late wife Sarah, had other ideas. What if that was Lily someday? What if that was you? What if nobody stops? Damn it, Caleb muttered and pulled over. Chapter 2. The Woman in the Rain. He left his truck running, flashers on, and stepped out into the deluge. The rain hit like a cold slap, soaking through his work jacket in seconds. He kept his distance as he approached, hands visible, posture non-threatening, every movement calculated to say, I'm here to help, not hurt. The woman turned. Even drenched and miserable, she carried herself with a kind of rigid authority that Caleb recognized from every boss, every bureaucrat, every person who'd ever looked at him and seen just a worker. Her dark hair was plastered to her face, and her eyes, sharp and assessing even in exhaustion, locked onto him with immediate wariness. "Car trouble?" Caleb called over the rain, stopping a respectful 10 feet away. "Obviously." Her voice cut through the storm with the kind of precision that suggested she was used to people jumping when she spoke. Then, seeming to catch herself, she softened slightly. "Yes, it won't start. The battery, I think." "Mind if I take a look?" She hesitated, studying him in the weak glow of his truck's headlights. Caleb understood the calculation happening behind her eyes. Woman alone, strange man, middle of nowhere, midnight storm. He'd be suspicious too. "I'll stay in your line of sight the whole time," he offered. "And I've got a daughter at home waiting up to make sure I'm safe, so I'm motivated to make this quick and get back to her." It was a small lie. Lily would be asleep. But it was the kind of lie that built trust. The kind that said, "I'm a father. I'm safe. I have people who care if I come home." Something in the woman's posture relaxed a fraction. "All right, but I'm watching." "Wouldn't expect anything less, ma'am." Caleb moved to the sedan's engine. It was a newer model BMW, the kind of car that cost more than he'd make in 2 years, and immediately spotted the problem. The battery terminals were loose, probably shaken free by bad road conditions. Water had gotten into the connection points. Simple fix if you had the right tools. "You got a toolkit?" he called. "In the trunk." He waited while she popped it, watched her produce a leather case that probably came with the car and had never been opened. Inside were tools so pristine they looked like they'd been minted that morning. Caleb pulled out what he needed and got to work. His own worn toolkit still in his truck, but unnecessary for this. The woman stood under a small overhang created by the open hood, watching him with unnerving intensity. After a moment, she spoke. "You do this often? Rescue stranded motorists?" "First time, actually," Caleb said, working the wrench carefully. "Usually I'm the one broke down on the side of the road." "Then why stop?" He paused, considering the question. The rain pounded the metal around them, creating a strange pocket of almost quiet beneath the hood. "Because somebody should," he said finally. "And I happen to be that somebody tonight." Altruism. How refreshingly uncommon. There was something in her tone, not quite cynicism, but close, like she'd been disappointed by people enough times to expect it as default. Caleb tightened the terminals, wiped the connections clean with a rag from his pocket, and stepped back. "Try it now." She moved to the driver's seat, and the engine turned over immediately, purring to life like it had never been dead. Relief flickered across her face, the first genuine emotion he'd seen, before the mask of composure slid back into place. She stepped out of the car. "Thank you, sincerely. Let me pay you." "No need." "I insist." She was already reaching for a purse in the passenger seat. 100? 2? "Ma'am, I didn't do it for money. I did it because you needed help, and I could give it." She stared at him like he'd spoken a foreign language. "Everyone wants something." "Sure," Caleb agreed. "I want you to get home safe. That's it." For a long moment, she simply studied him, the soaking wet stranger who'd stopped in a storm and refused payment. Caleb could see her trying to solve him like an equation that didn't balance. Finally, she spoke. "May I at least have your name?" Caleb Mercer." She extended a hand. Her grip was firm, professional, the handshake of someone who'd negotiated with powerful people. "Evelyn?" "Just Evelyn. No last name." Caleb didn't press. "Drive careful, Evelyn. Roads are getting worse." "You as well, Caleb Mercer." He climbed back into his truck, water streaming off his jacket, and pulled back onto the highway. In his rearview mirror, he watched the BMW's lights merge into traffic and disappear into the night. Caleb told himself it was just a good deed, a brief intersection of two lives that would never cross again. He told himself it didn't matter that she'd looked at him like he was a puzzle she couldn't quite solve. He told himself a lot of things, but the image of her face in the rain, sharp, intelligent, guarded, and for one brief moment genuinely grateful, stayed with him longer than it should have. It's set. Chapter 3. The countdown continues. 3 weeks moved like a slow-motion car crash. Caleb picked up extra shifts at the warehouse, his body moving on autopilot while his mind rehearsed testimony he'd probably never get to give. His lawyer, a public defender named Marcus Chen, who meant well but was drowning in a caseload of 100 other desperate people, kept trying to prepare him for disappointment. The prosecution has documents, Marcus said during their last meeting before trial. Signatures that look like yours, transaction records, a witness who claims you bragged about the scheme. The witness is lying. Rick Stanton set me up because he's the one who stole the money. I believe you, Caleb, but belief doesn't win cases. Evidence does, and right now the evidence is a problem. So what do I do? Marcus hesitated. You could take the plea. 3 years with good behavior, maybe 18 months. Lily could visit. It's not ideal, but no. Caleb's voice came out harder than he intended. I'm not pleading guilty to something I didn't do. And I'm sure as hell not teaching my daughter that sometimes you just accept injustice because fighting is too hard. Then we go to trial. And Caleb, I need you to understand that the odds aren't good. The judge assigned to your case is Evelyn Cross. She's got a reputation for being absolutely by the book. No sentiment, no sympathy, just law. If the evidence says you're guilty, she won't hesitate to put you away. Caleb barely heard the rest of the conversation. The name echoed in his head. Evelyn Cross. Common name. Couldn't be the same person. The woman in the rain had been stranded, vulnerable, human. The judge would be, what? Untouchable? Above the mess of regular life? But the name nagged at him anyway. The night before the trial, Caleb sat on Lily's bed while she pretended to read, but mostly just watched him with worried eyes. Dad, are you scared about tomorrow? He should have lied. Should have smiled and said everything would be fine. But Sarah had always hated when he tried to protect Lily from reality, and even gone, his wife's voice still guided him. Yeah, sweetheart, I'm pretty scared. What if the judge is mean? Then we deal with mean. But hopefully the judge will be fair. That's all I can ask for. Lily was quiet for a moment, then said something that broke his heart. If you have to go away, I'll write you letters every day, so you don't forget me. Caleb pulled her into a hug so tight she squeaked. Baby girl, I could never forget you. Not if I lived 1,000 years. You're stuck with me. Promise? Promise. But as he left her room and walked down the dark hallway to his own, Caleb couldn't shake the feeling that he was making promises he might not be able to keep. Chapter 4. The Courtroom. The county courthouse was an aging brick building that smelled like old paper and nervous sweat. Caleb arrived early, wearing the only suit he owned, a dark navy thing he'd bought for Sarah's funeral and hadn't touched since. It hung a little loose now. He'd lost weight over the past months, stress eating away at him like acid. Marcus met him in the hallway, looking harried and undercaffeinated. Ready? No, but let's do it anyway. The courtroom was smaller than Caleb expected, with wood paneling that had gone dark with age and fluorescent lights that buzzed like dying insects. A few spectators scattered the gallery, court watchers mostly, people with nothing better to do than witness other people's lives fall apart. Caleb took his seat at the defense table. His hands were shaking, so he pressed them flat against the wood, willing them still. The prosecution sat across the aisle, a sharp-suited assistant DA named Catherine Reeves, who'd made her career on winning convictions. She looked confident, comfortable, like this was just another Tuesday. For Caleb, it was the end of the world. All rise. The bailiff's voice cut through the room, and everyone stood. Caleb's heart hammered against his ribs. Each beat a countdown. This is it. This is it. This is it. The door behind the bench opened, and Evelyn Cross walked in. Time did something weird, stretched and compressed simultaneously. Caleb's brain tried to process what his eyes were seeing, but the information wouldn't compute. It was her, the woman from the rain, the stranded motorist, Evelyn. But not Evelyn, the vulnerable stranger. This was Evelyn the judge, black robes flowing like armor, hair pulled back in a severe knot, her face carved from stone and authority. She moved with absolute precision, every step measured, and when she took her seat behind the bench, she commanded the room like a general surveying a battlefield. Her eyes swept the courtroom in a practice scan, prosecution, defense, gallery, and for one brief electrical second, they landed on Caleb. Nothing. No recognition. No surprise. No flicker of anything that suggested she'd ever seen him before in her life. Caleb's stomach dropped through the floor. Either she didn't remember, which seemed impossible given the intensity of their brief encounter, or she was choosing not to acknowledge it. And if she was choosing not to acknowledge it, Caleb had no idea if that was good or catastrophically bad. "Please be seated," Judge Cross said, her voice carrying the same precise authority it had in the rain, but now multiplied by the power of her position. "We're here for the matter of the state versus Caleb James Mercer. Are both parties ready to proceed?" "The prosecution is ready, Your Honor," Catherine Reeves said smoothly. Marcus stood. "The defense is ready, Your Honor." Judge Cross's eyes, those sharp, assessing eyes that had studied Caleb in a storm, settled on him now with the weight of absolute judgment. "Mr. Mercer, you stand accused of embezzlement, fraud, and falsification of records. How do you plead?" Caleb stood, his legs unsteady. "Not guilty, Your Honor." She made a note, her expression giving away nothing. "Very well. Ms. Reeves, you may present your opening statement." The trial began. Chapter 5. The Evidence. Catherine Reeves was good at her job. Very good. She laid out the prosecution's case with surgical precision. Documents, transaction records, testimony from Rick Stanton painting Caleb as a disgruntled employee who'd seen an opportunity and taken it. The narrative was clean, compelling, and devastatingly convincing. "Ladies and gentlemen," Reeves addressed the jury, "the evidence will show that Caleb Mercer systematically stole over $200,000 from his employer over an 18-month period. He manipulated payroll accounts, falsified invoices, and when questioned, lied to investigators. This is not a case of confusion or mistaken identity. This is a case of deliberate, calculated theft." She presented document after document, each one bearing Caleb's signature, each one appearing to authorize fraudulent transactions. To anyone who didn't know better, it looked damning. Marcus did his best in cross-examination, poking holes where he could. "Mr. Stanton, isn't it true that you had equal access to these accounts?" "I did," Rick admitted easily, "but I wasn't the one signing these documents." "How do we know Mr. Mercer actually signed them?" "His signature is right there." "Signatures can be forged." Rick smiled, a cold, knowing smile that made Caleb's blood boil. "They can. But why would I forge documents to frame a coworker? What would I gain? Perhaps to cover your own theft?" "Objection," Reeves called. "Speculation." "Sustained," Judge Cross said, her voice flat. "Mr. Chen, stick to established facts." Marcus tried. God, he tried. But the evidence was a mountain, and he was one man with a shovel. Through it all, Judge Cross presided with absolute neutrality. She sustained objections, overruled grandstanding, and kept the proceedings moving with mechanical efficiency. She never once looked at Caleb in a way that suggested she'd ever seen him before. But Caleb watched her, studied her, and slowly he began to notice small things. The way her jaw tightened when Reeves presented the forged signatures, the slight pause before she sustained certain objections, the laser focus with which she examined each piece of evidence the prosecution submitted. It was subtle. So subtle Caleb might have imagined it. But he didn't think he was imagining the moment, deep into the second day of trial, when Reeves presented a smoking gun document supposedly showing Caleb authorizing a $50,000 fraudulent transaction. Judge Cross studied it for a long moment. Then, in a voice that could cut glass, she said, "Ms. Reeves, when was this document forensically verified?" Reeves blinked. "I'm sorry, Your Honor." "Forensically verified. Chain of custody documented. Authenticated by a handwriting expert. The signature matches Mr. Mercer's known samples. That wasn't my question." Judge Cross's eyes were steel. "Was this document subjected to forensic analysis to verify its authenticity?" A beat of silence. "No, Your Honor, but then it's not yet admissible as evidence." She set the document aside. "You'll need to submit it for proper verification before I'll allow the jury to consider it." Reeves looked like she'd been slapped. "Your Honor, this is standard procedure. Document authentication is required when the defense questions authenticity, which they have, repeatedly." Judge Cross's tone left no room for argument. "Get it verified, Ms. Reeves. Until then, the jury will disregard this exhibit." Marcus shot Caleb a look that said, "What the hell just happened?" Caleb had no answer, but something had shifted. Chapter 6. The Turn. The prosecution's case began to fracture. With Judge Cross demanding proper forensic verification for every document, the smooth narrative Reeves had built started showing cracks. Chain of custody became an issue. Authentication questions arose. What had seemed like ironclad evidence suddenly looked shakier under the microscope of proper legal scrutiny. And then on the fourth day of trial, everything exploded. The court ordered forensic analyst, a dry, academic man named Dr. Howard Chen, took the stand to present his findings on the disputed documents. "Dr. Chen," Marcus asked during the direct examination, his voice carefully controlled, "what did your analysis reveal about the signatures on Exhibits 12 through 34? Dr. Chen adjusted his glasses. "The signatures are forgeries, sophisticated ones, but forgeries nonetheless." The courtroom erupted. Judge Cross's gavel cracked like a gunshot. "Order! I will have order!" Reeves was on her feet. "Your Honor, I'd like to request a recess to—" "Denied. Dr. Chen, please explain your findings in detail." The analyst proceeded to methodically dismantle the prosecution's case. The signatures had been traced and reproduced. The documents themselves showed evidence of digital manipulation. And most damning of all, the ink dating on several key exhibits indicated they'd been created after the alleged crimes took place. "In your expert opinion," Marcus pressed, "could these documents have been created by Mr. Mercer?" "Not unless Mr. Mercer is a time traveler," Dr. Chen said dryly. "The documents purporting to show his authorization of fraudulent transactions in March of last year were physically created in September, 3 months after he was fired and denied access to company systems." Caleb watched Rick Stanton's face go pale. Judge Cross leaned forward. "Dr. Chen, is it your testimony that these documents were fabricated to frame Mr. Mercer?" "That is my professional conclusion, yes." She turned to Reeves. "Ms. Reeves, do you have an explanation for how fabricated documents ended up as the cornerstone of your case?" The prosecutor looked trapped. "Your Honor, I relied on the evidence provided by the company's investigation." "An investigation led by whom?" Silence. Judge Cross's voice dropped to something quiet and deadly. "I'll ask again. Who conducted the investigation that produced these documents?" Reeves swallowed. "Richard Stanton, Your Honor, the company's senior project manager." Every eye in the courtroom turned to Rick. Judge Cross's expression could have frozen fire. "Bailiff, I want Mr. Stanton detained for questioning. Ms. Reeves, you have until tomorrow morning to explain to me how your office failed to properly vet evidence in a case that could have sent an innocent man to prison. And Mr. Chenchit." Her eyes found Marcus, and for just a heartbeat, Caleb saw something flicker there that might have been approval. "File a motion to dismiss. I'm inclined to grant it." The courtroom dissolved into chaos, but all Caleb heard was the roaring in his ears. It was over. He was free. Chapter 7. The Verdict. The next morning, Judge Cross dismissed all charges. She did it with the same precise authority she'd shown throughout the trial, but this time, when she spoke, there was an edge to her words that felt personal. "Mr. Mercer, this court apologizes for the miscarriage of justice you've endured. The charges against you are dismissed with prejudice. Furthermore, I am ordering the district attorney's office to investigate Mr. Stanton for fraud, evidence tampering, and perjury." She looked directly at Caleb then, and he saw it. The briefest flash of recognition, of humanity beneath the judicial robes. "You are free to go, Mr. Mercer. And for what it's worth—" She paused, choosing her words carefully. "The record should reflect that you conducted yourself with dignity and integrity throughout this ordeal. That speaks to character." Caleb stood on shaking legs. "Thank you, Your Honor." She nodded once, then stood. Court is adjourned. As she left the bench, black robes sweeping behind her like wings, Caleb wanted to call out, to say something, to somehow bridge the gap between the man in the rain and the defendant in her courtroom. But the moment passed, and she was gone. Marcus clapped him on the shoulder. "You're free, man. You're actually free." "Yeah," Caleb said, still staring at the empty bench. "I guess I am." But freedom came with a weight he hadn't expected. The weight of unfinished business, of gratitude unexpressed, of a woman who'd saved his life twice and disappeared both times before he could truly thank her. Outside the courthouse, the sun was shining. Lily was waiting with her grandmother, and when she saw Caleb, she screamed and ran to him, nearly knocking him over with the force of her hug. "You're home," she sobbed into his shoulder. "You're really home." "I'm really home, baby girl, and I'm never leaving. Bensky." He held his daughter in the sunlight and let himself believe, for the first time in months, that maybe things would be okay. But a part of him, a small, persistent part, couldn't stop thinking about the woman in the judge's robes, about the way she'd looked at him in the rain with curiosity and in the courtroom with professional distance, about the fact that she'd saved him without ever acknowledging she knew him at all. The question burned in his chest. Had she recognized him from the start? Or had she simply done her job with the same exacting standards she applied to everything? And if she had recognized him, if she'd remembered the soaking wet stranger who'd fixed her car and refused payment, what did it mean that she'd stayed silent? The answers would have to wait. For now, Caleb had a daughter to reassure, a life to rebuild, and a future that suddenly, miraculously existed again. But the story of the woman in the rain wasn't over. It was just beginning. Chapter 8. The Weight of Gratitude. The first week of freedom was strange. Caleb kept waking up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, convinced he'd dreamed the dismissal and was actually in a cell waiting for transfer to state prison. Then he'd hear Lily breathing softly in the next room or see moonlight streaming through the window of his own bedroom, and reality would resettle around him like a coat he'd forgotten he owned. He got his job back. The warehouse manager, a gruff man named Pete, who'd never believed the charges, hired him back with a raise and an apology. The money helped. God, it helped. Caleb paid down the bills that had been slowly suffocating him and bought Lily the art supplies she'd been wanting for months. Life started to feel almost normal, but the question wouldn't leave him alone. Late at night, after Lily was asleep, Caleb would sit at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee going cold in his hands, and he'd replay every moment of the trial. The way Judge Cross had demanded forensic verification, the steel in her voice when she'd questioned the prosecution, the absolute precision with which she'd dismantled a case that could have destroyed him. Had she recognized him from the start? The thought was both comforting and terrifying. Comforting because it meant the kindness he'd shown in the rain had mattered, had maybe even saved his life in return. Terrifying because if she had recognized him and stayed silent, it meant she'd navigated an ethical minefield to help him without compromising her position. And Caleb had no idea how to thank someone for that. He tried to find her, not in a stalking way, just simple public record searches. Judge Evelyn Cross, appointed to the bench 6 years ago, former prosecutor with a reputation for being tough but fair, no social media presence, no public appearances beyond what her job required. She was a ghost wrapped in judicial robes, and Caleb was just a man who'd once fixed her car in a rainstorm. The weight of unexpressed gratitude sat on his chest like a stone. Lily noticed. "Dad, you're doing that thing again." Caleb looked up from his coffee. "What thing?" "That thing where you stare at nothing and look sad. Are you sad?" "No, baby girl, just thinking." "About what?" How to explain it? How to tell a 7-year-old that sometimes life gives you gifts you don't know how to repay, and the debt of it eats at you even though nobody's asking for payment? "About being grateful," he said finally, "and wishing I could say thank you to someone who helped us." Lily climbed into his lap. She was getting too big for it, all gangly limbs and sharp elbows, but Caleb would never tell her no, and rested her head against his shoulder. "So say thank you," she said simply. "It's not that easy, sweetheart." "Why not?" "Because I don't know how to find them." "Then maybe they'll find you." Caleb kissed the top of her head, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. "Maybe, but I'm not going to count on it." "Okay, but if they do, you have to say thank you. Promise?" "I promise." Lily nodded, satisfied, and wandered back to her coloring books. Caleb stayed at the table, holding the cold coffee, and told himself to let it go. Some debts couldn't be repaid. Some mysteries didn't get solved. Some women in rainstorms walked out of your life as completely as they'd walked into it, and you just had to make peace with never knowing what they'd been thinking when they saved you. He told himself all of that. But deep down, in the part of him that had stopped on a midnight highway because it was the right thing to do, Caleb couldn't quite believe the story was finished. The universe, he'd learned, had a weird sense of timing, and some circles took longer to close than others. Chapter 9. The Ordinary Miracle. 3 weeks after the trial ended, Caleb took Lily to the hardware store. It was a Saturday morning errand, the kind of mundane, beautiful normal that Caleb had thought he'd never experience again. The bathroom sink had a drip that was driving him slowly insane, and he needed a replacement washer and maybe some pipe tape if he was going to fix it without calling a plumber he couldn't afford. Lily pushed the cart, steering it with the serious concentration of a 7-year-old given important responsibility. She'd already talked him into stopping by the paint section to look at color samples. "Just looking, Dad. I'm not asking for anything, but that purple would be so pretty in my room," and was now campaigning for a stop at the garden center on the way out. "They have baby tomato plants," she explained. "We could grow tomatoes. I'd take care of them." "You said that about the goldfish. Mr. Bubbles lived for 3 months. That's basically forever in fish years." Caleb was laughing, actually laughing, the kind of deep, genuine laughter that had been rare as gold over the past year, when he turned into the electrical aisle and nearly walked straight into Evelyn Cross. Time stuttered. She was dressed nothing like a judge, faded jeans, a soft gray sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders instead of pulled back in that severe judicial knot. She held a small basket containing what looked like light bulbs and were those battery terminals. Their eyes met. Recognition flared immediate and mutual. No hiding it now, no professional distance to maintain. For a stretched second, neither of them spoke. Then Lily, bless her complete lack of social awareness, broke the silence. "Dad, you're blocking the aisle." Caleb stepped aside, his mouth trying to form words that his brain couldn't quite organize. It's fine," Evelyn said quickly. But she wasn't moving either. Lily looked between them with the sharp curiosity of a child who knew something interesting was happening. "Do you know each other?" "We've met," Evelyn said carefully. Her eyes hadn't left Caleb's face. "Hello, Mr. Mercer." "Your Honor," Caleb managed. "Evelyn, please." She gestured at her civilian clothes with a small, almost self-conscious smile. "I'm off the clock." Lily tugged Caleb's sleeve. "Dad, who is this?" How to answer. "This is the woman who saved my life twice, baby girl. Once in a rainstorm and once in a courtroom, and I never got to say thank you." "This is a friend," Caleb said, the word feeling both inadequate and strangely right. Evelyn's expression shifted, something soft and surprised flickering across her features. "A friend. Yes, I suppose that's accurate." An awkward silence fell. Caleb's brain screamed at him to say something, anything to bridge the gap. But everything felt too big or too small, too much or not enough. Evelyn cleared her throat. "I see you're shopping for plumbing supplies. Dripping sink. Ah, I'm here for..." She held up the battery terminals, and something that might have been humor touched her eyes. "These, actually. My car's been having issues lately." The absurdity of it hit them both at the same moment. Caleb felt a laugh bubble up. Inappropriate, slightly hysterical, but genuine. "Seems like a pattern with your car," he said. "It's very dramatic, likes attention." Lily, growing bored with adult conversation, tugged on Caleb's sleeve again. "Can I go look at the hammer section?" "The hammer section?" "I want to see the pretty handles." "Sure, baby girl. Stay where I can see you." Lily skipped off, immediately gravitating toward a display of tools with brightly colored grips. Caleb and Evelyn were left standing in the electrical aisle, the fluorescent lights humming above them, surrounded by the mundane architecture of a Saturday morning. "She's beautiful," Evelyn said quietly. "Your daughter." "She's my whole world." "I know." The words came out soft, weighted with meaning. "I could see that. In court. The way you looked when her name was mentioned, that's not something you can fake." Caleb's throat tightened. "I never got to thank you for what you did." "I did my job." "You did more than that." He held her gaze, needing her to understand. You demanded verification when you didn't have to. You pushed when most judges would have let it slide. You saved my life, Evelyn. Again. She was quiet for a long moment, studying him with those sharp, assessing eyes. Then she said something that changed everything. I recognized you. The moment I walked into that courtroom, I knew exactly who you were. The admission hit Caleb like a physical blow. You, the whole time. She set her basket down, folding her arms across her chest in what looked like a protective gesture. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done, pretending I didn't. Because if I'd acknowledged it, if there'd been even a hint of prior connection, the prosecution would have called for my recusal. Your case would have gone to another judge, maybe one who wouldn't have looked as closely at the evidence. So you stayed silent. I stayed silent, and I did my job with every ounce of integrity I possess, because I needed that case to be absolutely airtight if it was going to be dismissed. I couldn't give anyone, not the prosecution, not an appeals court, not anyone, grounds to question my ruling. Caleb felt something unlock in his chest, the weight he'd been carrying for weeks suddenly lighter. You risked your reputation, for me. I risked my reputation for justice. There's a difference. But her eyes softened. Though I'll admit, having seen your character firsthand made me motivated to look very carefully at the evidence being presented. Because I stopped in the rain. Because you stopped in the rain for a stranger, expecting nothing in return. Because you showed me kindness when you had every reason to keep driving. Because, she paused, seeming to choose her words carefully. Because people who do that tend to be who they appear to be. And you appeared to be exactly what you claimed. An innocent man being railroaded by a liar. The emotion swelling in Caleb's chest was too big for words, so he said the only thing that mattered, thank you. You already thanked me, in a rainstorm, by helping when you didn't have to. Evelyn smiled, a real smile, warm and genuine. We're even. Down the aisle, Lily had discovered a display of hammers with rainbow-colored handles and was testing their weight with serious consideration. Your daughter seems to have strong opinions about tools, Evelyn observed. She has strong opinions about everything. Gets it from her mom. Your wife? Was. She died 3 years ago. Cancer. I'm sorry. Me too. Caleb watched Lily examine a purple-handled hammer like it held the secrets of the universe. But we're doing okay. Better than okay now. An idea sparked, reckless and probably stupid, but Caleb had learned that the best moments in life usually started with decisions that looked questionable from the outside. Can I buy you coffee? He asked. To say thank you properly, and maybe to prove that I can hold a conversation without being terrified you're about to send me to prison. Evelyn laughed, a genuine, surprised sound that transformed her entire face. Coffee, yes, I think I'd like that. Yeah? Yes. Though fair warning, I'm extremely particular about coffee. It's been called one of my more annoying qualities. I once spent 20 minutes explaining to Lily why purple is technically the best color, so I think we'll be fine. She picked up her basket, something light and almost playful in her expression. There's a cafe 2 blocks from here. Decent espresso, terrible pastries. Perfect. Let me grab my plumbing supplies and collect my daughter from the hammer aisle, and we'll meet you there. I'll be the one judging everyone's coffee orders. They moved toward their respective errands, and Caleb felt the strangest sensation, like the universe had just clicked a puzzle piece into place that he hadn't even known was missing. Lily appeared at his elbow, wielding a purple hammer with rainbow speckles. Dad, I need this. You need a hammer? For building things, important things. What important things? I don't know yet. But when I figure it out, I'll have the perfect hammer ready. She looked up at him with those wide, earnest eyes that could probably convince him to buy her the moon if she asked right. Please? Caleb glanced back down the aisle, where Evelyn was examining light bulbs with the same intense focus she'd probably applied to every decision in her life. Some moments deserved celebration. Some mornings called for small victories. Okay, but you're responsible for it. That means no hammering things that aren't supposed to be hammered. I promise. At the checkout, with a purple hammer, plumbing supplies, and the prospect of coffee with a woman who'd saved his life twice, Caleb felt something he'd almost forgotten. Hope. Not the desperate, clinging hope of a man facing trial, but the quiet, steady hope of someone who'd survived the worst and found himself standing in a hardware store on a Saturday morning, watching his daughter sing to herself about hammers while the future opened up like a road with no visible end. It was, in its own strange way, perfect. The cafe was exactly as Evelyn had described. Small, slightly worn around the edges, with mismatched furniture and the kind of espresso machine that looked like it required an engineering degree to operate. Caleb arrived with Lily in tow, the purple hammer already clutched in her hands like a sacred artifact. Evelyn had claimed a corner table near the window, 2 cups of coffee already steaming in front of her. She'd ordered him something without asking, which should have felt presumptuous, but somehow didn't. "I got you an Americano," she said as they approached. "Black. Seemed like your style." "You guessed right." Caleb slid into the seat across from her while Lily immediately zeroed in on the pastry case with laser focus. "Lily, what do you want?" "Chocolate croissant, and orange juice, and one of those cookie things." "Pick one." "But Dad." "One." Lily considered this with the gravity of someone negotiating international treaties, then pointed at the chocolate croissant. "That one. But if you get coffee, shouldn't I get hot chocolate too?" Caleb looked at Evelyn. "See what I'm dealing with?" "She's negotiating. That's good. Shows critical thinking." Evelyn's lips quirked. "Though I'd hold firm on the one-item rule. Give an inch with that kind of tactical mind and you'll be buying the whole bakery by next week." "I like her," Lily announced to Caleb, as if Evelyn wasn't sitting right there. "She's smart." "Thank you," Evelyn said seriously. "I like you too. That's an excellent hammer." Lily's entire face lit up. "You think so? Dad said I could get it for building important things." "What kind of important things?" "I don't know yet, but when I figure it out, I'll be ready." "That's very forward-thinking of you." Caleb went to order Lily's croissant and hot chocolate, because what the hell, they were celebrating freedom and unexpected coffee dates. And when he returned, Lily had somehow already extracted Evelyn's entire opinion on the best color of hammer handles. "Purple is excellent," Evelyn was saying, "but have you considered teal? It's underrated as a tool color." "Teal is just fancy blue," Lily countered. "Purple is its own thing." "Fair point." Caleb set the pastry and hot chocolate in front of his daughter, who immediately began the careful surgical process of eating a chocolate croissant without getting chocolate everywhere. It was a doomed endeavor, but Lily approached it with optimism. For a moment, the 3 of them sat in comfortable near silence, the cafe humming with quiet Saturday morning energy around them. Caleb sipped his coffee. It was good, strong, and clean, and tried to wrap his mind around the surreal reality of sitting across from Judge Evelyn Cross, who was currently explaining to his daughter the aerodynamic properties of different hammer designs. "So," Evelyn said eventually, redirecting her attention to Caleb while Lily destroyed her croissant, "how are you doing, really?" "Honestly, still processing. Some mornings I wake up and can't believe it's over." "That's normal. Trauma takes time to settle." "Is that the judge talking or personal experience?" Something flickered across her face, brief, guarded. "Both, I suppose, though my trauma was different. Professional, mostly. Watching innocent people get ground up by a system that's supposed to protect them." She paused, stirring her coffee even though she hadn't added anything to it. "Your case wasn't the first time I've seen fabricated evidence, but it was one of the most blatant. That kind of corruption makes me angry." "You hit it well. In court, you were—" Caleb searched for the right word. "Terrifying, actually, in a professional way." "Good. Judges should be a little terrifying, keeps everyone honest." She smiled slightly. "But I'll admit, maintaining neutrality while watching that prosecutor present forged documents was one of the harder performances I've given." "Performance?" "The bench requires a certain amount of theater. You can't let personal feelings show, even when you're furious. Even when you recognize someone from a rainstorm and want to acknowledge it, but know you can't." Her eyes met his, direct and honest. "Even when you're terrified you're going to get it wrong, and an innocent man will go to prison because you made a mistake." The admission surprised him. You were scared? Of course I was scared. I'm human, Caleb. I just don't get to show it when I'm wearing the robe. She set down her coffee cup. The stakes in that courtroom were your entire life, your daughter's father, everything that mattered to you. That's not something I take lightly. Lily looked up from her croissant, chocolate smeared across her chin. Are you talking about the trial? When Dad was sad all the time? Caleb's chest tightened. Yeah, baby girl, that's what we're talking about. I didn't like that time. You pretended you weren't sad, but I could tell. She turned to Evelyn with the blunt honesty only children possess. Did you help my dad not be sad anymore? Evelyn's expression softened into something achingly gentle. I tried to make sure the truth came out. Your dad did the rest by being brave. He's very brave. One time, he killed a spider that was this big. Lily spread her chocolate-covered hands apart in wild exaggeration, and he didn't even scream. Impressive. It was a pretty big spider, Caleb confirmed solemnly. They fell into easier conversation after that, the kind of meandering talk that happens when people are finding their rhythm with each other. Evelyn asked about Lily's school, which led to a 15-minute monologue about Lily's teacher, Mrs. Patterson, and the injustice of only getting 2 recesses per day. Caleb asked about Evelyn's work, carefully avoiding anything that might touch on specific cases, and learned she'd wanted to be a judge since she was 12 years old. Why 12? He asked. My parents went through a messy divorce. The judge assigned to their case was patient, fair, and made me feel like someone was actually listening when everyone else was too angry to hear anything. I remember thinking, that's what I want to do. I want to be the person who listens when everything's falling apart. And now you are. Most days, some days I'm just the person enforcing rules and managing egos. But occasionally, she paused, occasionally I get to make sure someone like you doesn't lose everything because of a lie. Those days make the rest worth it. Lily had finished her croissant and was now conducting a detailed examination of the cafe's artwork, which consisted mostly of faded photographs of the town from decades past. This left Caleb and Evelyn in a bubble of relative privacy, the conversations of other patrons washing around them like background music. Can I ask you something? Caleb said. Of course. That night in the rain, did you think I was crazy? Stopping for a stranger in the middle of nowhere? Evelyn considered the question. Honestly, my first thought was that you might be dangerous. My second thought was that you were being deliberately non-threatening, which suggested you understood why I'd be wary. By the third thought, I was just grateful someone stopped it all. She smiled. And then you refused money, and I didn't know what to do with you. Nobody refuses money. I didn't need money. I needed to know I'd helped. Why? What did you get out of it? Caleb thought about that. Really thought about it. Proof, maybe, that I was still the person I thought I was. Those months before the trial, I felt like everything was being stripped away. My job, my reputation, my future. I couldn't control any of it, but I could control whether I stopped to help someone in the rain. So you stopped? So I stopped, and somehow ended up having coffee with you 3 weeks later, which still doesn't feel entirely real. It's real, Evelyn assured him. Though I'll admit this wasn't how I pictured my Saturday going when I woke up this morning. Better or worse? She smiled, genuinely smiled, warm and unguarded. Better, definitely better. Lily returned to the table with a pronouncement. Dad, I have to use the bathroom. Okay, baby girl, you know where it is? I'm 7, not 3. I can find a bathroom. Fair enough. Yell if you need me. Lily marched off toward the restrooms with the purple hammer still clutched in one hand, leaving Caleb and Evelyn alone again. She's remarkable, Evelyn said. You've done an incredible job with her. I've mostly just tried not to screw up too badly. Her mom was the remarkable one. Sarah would have known exactly what to say, how to handle everything. I'm making it up as I go. That's parenting. Everyone's making it up. Some people are just better at pretending they have a plan. She traced the rim of her coffee cup. My parents certainly didn't have one. I learned early that adults are mostly just tall children with bills to pay. Wise 12-year-old. Cynical 12-year-old. There's a difference. Are you still cynical? Evelyn was quiet for a moment. Less than I was. The job has a way of either crushing your faith in humanity or refining it. I've chosen to let it refine. She looked at him directly. Meeting people like you helps. Reminds me that kindness still exists, even when it's inconvenient. Stopping for 5 minutes wasn't inconvenient. You were exhausted, broke, and facing a trial that could take your daughter away. Most people would have kept driving. You stopped anyway. She held his gaze. That matters, Caleb. More than you probably realize. He didn't know what to say to that, so he said the truth. I'm glad I stopped. So am I. The moment stretched between them, waited with something neither quite named. Then Lily returned, announcement interrupting. There's a dog outside. Can we get a dog? We've been through this, Caleb said. Dogs are expensive. But I'd take care of it. Like you took care of Mr. Bubbles. That was different. Fish are sneaky. Dogs are loyal. Evelyn laughed, a genuine, delighted sound. She makes a compelling argument. Don't encourage her. Next she'll want a pony. I already want a pony, Lily informed him. I just know that's a no, so I'm starting with a dog. Tactical negotiation, Evelyn murmured to Caleb. Told you. They lingered at the cafe longer than Caleb had planned, conversation flowing easier than it had any right to. Evelyn told stories about bizarre cases she'd presided over. Nothing confidential, just the weird human moments that happened in courtrooms. Caleb shared tales of warehouse mishaps and Lily's ongoing campaign to convince him that bedtime was a social construct. It felt normal. Easy. Like they'd known each other longer than 2 brief encounters in a trial. Eventually, though, the cafe began filling with the lunch crowd, and Lily's attention span reached its natural limit. We should probably go, Caleb said reluctantly. I've still got that sink to fix. And I have errands I've been avoiding. Evelyn stood, gathering her things. But this was really nice. Thank you for the coffee and the company. Thank you for saving my life, twice. We're keeping score now? Apparently. They walked out together, Lily skipping ahead to examine the dog she'd spotted earlier, an elderly golden retriever who accepted her enthusiastic petting with patient dignity. On the sidewalk, Caleb and Evelyn faced each other in the sunlight, and Caleb felt the same awkwardness from the hardware store returning. This felt like a goodbye, but he didn't want it to be. Would you? He started, then stopped, suddenly uncertain. Would you want to do this again sometime? Coffee, I mean, or dinner, or... I'm not good at this. I haven't asked anyone out since my wife, and that was 10 years ago, so if I'm being weird... You're not being weird, Evelyn interrupted gently. And yes, I'd like that. Very much. Relief flooded through him. Yeah? Yes. Though full disclosure, I'm not great at this either. My last relationship ended 2 years ago, and dating as a judge is complicated. People either want to impress me or they're intimidated by the job. It's exhausting. I'm definitely intimidated by the job, but I'm here anyway. She smiled. Good. Intimidation is healthy. Keeps you honest. She pulled out her phone. Give me your number. I'll text you, and we can figure out a time that works. They exchanged numbers, and Caleb tried not to feel like a teenager getting his crush's contact information for the first time. He failed. Lily bounded back over. Dad, that dog's owner said golden retrievers are the best family dogs. Just information. For you. To have. Information received and filed, Caleb said. Lily turned to Evelyn. Are you going to be Dad's friend now? I hope so, Evelyn said. Good. He needs more friends. He mostly just talks to me and Grandma mostly talks about her garden. She stuck out her hand with solemn formality. Nice to meet you, Judge Lady. Nice to meet you too, Lily, and you can call me Evelyn. Evelyn? Lily repeated, testing the name. I like it. It sounds fancy. Thank you. I like Lily. It sounds like sunshine. Lily beamed, and Caleb felt something in his chest constrict with an emotion he couldn't quite name. Watching his daughter interact with Evelyn, seeing them find easy rapport, felt significant in ways he wasn't ready to examine too closely. They parted ways in the parking lot, Evelyn heading toward her BMW, battery terminals successfully acquired, while Caleb and Lily climbed into his truck. As he pulled out onto the street, Lily said, I really like her, Dad. Yeah, baby girl, me too, Is she going to be your girlfriend? I don't know yet. Maybe. Would that be okay? Lily was quiet for a moment, swinging her purple hammer thoughtfully. Mom would have liked her. She's smart and nice, and she thinks my hammer is cool. Caleb's throat tightened. Yeah, I think Mom would have liked her too. Then it's okay. You can be her boyfriend, but you have to be a really good one, because she's special. How do you know she's special? Because she helped us when we needed it, and because she looks at you like you're interesting, not like you're just some regular dad. Lily paused. And also because she knows purple is the best color for hammers. Caleb laughed, the sound coming out slightly choked. Those are all excellent reasons. That night, after Lily was asleep and the sink was fixed, mostly, it still dripped a little, but less aggressively, Caleb's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Evelyn. Just wanted to make sure you got home safely and that your sink repair went well. He smiled and typed back. Home safe. Sink is improved. Not perfect, but better. How are your battery terminals? Installed and functional. I even managed to do it myself, though I'll admit I consulted a YouTube video. That's cheating. That's efficiency. There's a difference. Judge Cross, are you telling me you cut corners? I'm telling you I use available resources wisely. Completely different. They texted back and forth for another hour. Nothing deep, just the easy back and forth of two people getting to know each other. She asked about Lily's bedtime routine. He asked about her coffee preferences. She sent a photo of her car with the caption, "Look, it starts." And he sent back a thumbs up emoji followed immediately by, "Did I just use an emoji with a judge? Is that contempt of court?" Only if the emoji is rude. Thumbs up is acceptable. Eggplant is pushing it. Noted for future reference. When they finally said goodnight, Caleb lay in bed staring at the ceiling, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Anticipation for the future that wasn't rooted in dread. His phone buzzed one more time. For what it's worth, I had a really good time today. Thank you for the coffee and for letting me meet Lily. She's wonderful. Caleb typed and deleted 3 different responses before settling on the truth. Thank you for being willing to take a chance on the guy who stopped in the rain. I had a really good time too. The response came almost immediately. Best decision I've made in a while. He fell asleep smiling. The next 2 weeks unfolded like something from a life Caleb had thought was only available to other people. People with stable jobs and clean legal records and the kind of uncomplicated existence where you could plan more than 3 days into the future. He and Evelyn texted daily. Nothing overwhelming, just steady connection, morning check-ins, random observations, photos of interesting things. She sent him a picture of a courtroom cat that had wandered in during a hearing. He sent her a video of Lily's dramatic interpretation of why she deserved a dog, performed with full theatrical flair. They managed one actual date, dinner at a quiet Italian place where the food was simple and excellent, and they could talk without shouting over noise. Evelyn wore a dark blue dress that made her eyes impossible to look away from, and Caleb wore the same suit from the trial because it was the only one he owned, but she didn't seem to mind. You clean up well, she said when he picked her up. You're just being nice. I'm a judge. I'm contractually obligated to be honest. Is that true? No, but it sounds authoritative. Over pasta and wine that Evelyn insisted on splitting despite Caleb's protests, they talked about everything and nothing. She told him about her family, parents divorced, one sister she barely spoke to, a childhood spent learning to navigate conflict by going invisible. He told her about Sarah, about the cancer that took her too fast, about learning to be both parents to a 5-year-old who didn't understand why mommy wasn't coming home. That must have been impossible, Evelyn said quietly. Some days it was. Some days I barely held it together. But Lily needed me to hold it together, so I did. He twirled his fork through pasta. Kids have a way of making you stronger than you think you can be. Do you think you'll tell her? About us, I mean, if this, she gestured between them, becomes something worth telling. She already knows. She asked if you were going to be my girlfriend about 30 seconds after we left the cafe. And what did you tell her? That I didn't know yet, but I hoped so. He met her eyes. Was that presumptuous? No, it was honest. Evelyn's expression softened. I hope so too. They stayed at the restaurant until closing, then walked to a nearby park even though it was late and slightly cold. Evelyn shivered, and Caleb offered his jacket without thinking. She took it, pulling it around her shoulders, and they sat on a bench under streetlights watching the occasional car pass. "This is nice," Evelyn said. "I don't do this enough. Sit on benches? Be normal. Most of my life is scheduled down to the minute. Court, meetings, case reviews, more court. I forget sometimes that you can just exist without a plan." "Well, if it helps, I have no plan whatsoever. For tonight, for tomorrow, for any of it. I'm completely winging this." "That does help, actually." She leaned against him slightly, not quite cuddling, but close enough that Caleb could feel her warmth. "You're good at winging it. Years of practice. Single parenting is 90% improvisation, 10% hoping you don't screw up too badly." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, and Caleb thought about the strangeness of it all. How life could turn on the smallest moments. A decision to stop in the rain. A chance meeting in a hardware store. A text message sent late at night. "Can I ask you something?" Evelyn said eventually. "Anything." "When you stopped that night in the storm, did you ever think it would lead here?" "Honestly, I thought I'd fix your car and never see you again. That's how those things usually go." "But you stopped anyway." "Yeah, I stopped anyway." He looked at her. "I'm starting to think the universe has a weird sense of humor. Or excellent timing. Maybe both." Evelyn turned to face him more fully, her expression serious. "I need you to understand something. My job is complicated. I can't show favoritism, can't be seen as compromised. If we do this, if this becomes real, there will be rules, boundaries, things we have to navigate carefully." "I understand." "Do you? Because it means I can't acknowledge you in public if you're in my courtroom. It means we'll have to be careful about who knows what. It means..." "Evelyn," Caleb took her hand, "I watched you tear apart a prosecution's case to save my life while pretending you'd never met me. I know you can navigate complicated, and I'm willing to navigate it with you if you'll let me." She stared at him for a long moment, something vulnerable and uncertain flickering across her face. Then she kissed him. It was gentle, tentative, the kiss of two people who'd both been hurt before and were trying not to rush towards something that might break them. But it was also real and warm and full of possibility. When they pulled apart, Evelyn was smiling. "Okay, let's do this. Let's try." "Yeah?" "Yes, but fair warning. I'm difficult, opinionated, and terrible at relaxing. My idea of a fun weekend is reading case law. I work too much and I'm not great at compromise. I'm broke, slightly traumatized, and come with a 7-year-old who will absolutely interrogate you about your favorite color and judge you based on your answer. I burn dinner regularly, and my truck makes concerning noises." "Purple," Evelyn said. "What?" "My favorite color. It's purple. Will that satisfy Lily's interrogation?" Caleb laughed. "It'll be a good start." They stayed on that bench until the cold became too much to ignore. Then Caleb drove her home. At her door, she kissed him again, longer this time, with more certainty, and whispered, "Thank you for stopping in the rain. Thank you for demanding forensic verification. We make a good team." "Yeah, I think we do." The following Saturday, Evelyn came to dinner at Caleb's house. It was Lily's idea. She'd been campaigning all week with the persistence of a skilled lobbyist. "Dad, you have to invite her. It's polite. And I want to show her my room and my hammer and my rock collection and..." Okay, I'll ask." So he asked, and Evelyn said yes, and now Caleb was attempting to cook lasagna while simultaneously preventing Lily from rearranging the entire living room to be more impressive for guests. "Lily, she doesn't need to be impressed. She already likes you." "But what if she changes her mind?" "She's not going to change her mind because the couch is in a different place. You don't know that." The doorbell rang, and Lily sprinted to answer it before Caleb could stop her. He heard the door open, heard Lily's excited, "You came!" and Evelyn's warm reply, and when he emerged from the kitchen, he found them already deep in conversation about whether rainbow sparkle hammers existed, and if not, why someone hadn't invented them yet. Evelyn had brought wine and flowers, daisies, simple and cheerful. "I wasn't sure what you liked," she said, handing them to Caleb. "These are perfect. Thank you." She dressed casually again, jeans and a soft sweater, but there was something about the way she held herself that always suggested authority, even in civilian clothes. Lily grabbed her hand and dragged her toward the living room, narrating a comprehensive tour of every important feature of the house. This is where Dad reads to me before bed. This is my craft corner, but I'm not allowed to use glitter anymore because of an incident. This is the window where we saw a raccoon once. This is... Lily, let her breathe, Caleb called from the kitchen. I'm fine, Evelyn assured him. The tour is very thorough. Dinner was chaotic in the best way. The lasagna turned out better than Caleb expected, and Lily entertained them with running commentary on everything from school drama to her theories about why pizza was the perfect food. It has all the food groups, she explained seriously. Bread, cheese, vegetables if you get the right toppings, and meat if you're not a vegetarian. It's basically complete nutrition. What about fruit? Evelyn asked. Tomato sauce is made from tomatoes. Tomatoes are fruit. I checked. Solid research. After dinner, while Caleb cleaned up, refusing Evelyn's offers to help, Lily showed off her rock collection with the enthusiasm of a museum curator presenting priceless artifacts. This one I found at the park. This one is from the beach when we went with Grandma. This one I think might be magic, but Dad says it's just quartz. It could be magic quartz, Evelyn suggested. That's what I said. From the kitchen, Caleb listened to them talk and felt something settle in his chest. A rightness he hadn't expected to find again. The sound of Lily laughing with someone who wasn't him or his mother-in-law. The easy way Evelyn engaged with his daughter, not talking down but treating her like a person worth taking seriously. When the dishes were done and Lily's bedtime approached, they gathered in the living room. Lily, displaying her tactical negotiation skills, immediately tried to extend her bedtime. But Evelyn's here. It would be rude to go to bed. Evelyn will still be here tomorrow, Caleb said. Will you? Lily asked Evelyn directly. Evelyn glanced at Caleb, something soft in her expression. If your dad will have me, yes. I'd like to be around tomorrow. And the day after that. See, Dad? She's staying, so I should stay up too. Nice try. Bed. Now. Lily sighed with theatrical despair but accepted her fate. She hugged Evelyn goodnight, a quick, fierce hug that made Evelyn's eyes go suspiciously bright, and trudged toward her room with the resignation of the unjustly oppressed. Alone with Evelyn, Caleb felt suddenly nervous. Sorry about the chaos. She's a lot sometimes. She's wonderful. You're raising an incredible kid, Caleb. I'm trying. Most days I feel like I'm barely keeping up. That's how you know you're doing it right. The parents who think they have it all figured out are usually the ones screwing up. She settled into the couch, looking more relaxed than he'd ever seen her. This is nice. You're home. It feels lived in. That's a polite way of saying cluttered. No, I mean it. My place is sterile. Everything in its place. No mess, no personality. This feels like a home. Like people actually live here and aren't just passing through. Caleb sat beside her. You're welcome here any time. Both of you, the sterile judge version and the human version. What if they're the same person? Then I'm lucky enough to get both. She leaned into him, and they sat like that for a long while, comfortable and quiet. Eventually, Evelyn spoke. I'm not good at this. Relationships? Letting people in? My last boyfriend said I kept him at arm's length, even when we were sleeping in the same bed. Was he right? Probably. I'm used to being self-sufficient, independent. Needing people feels dangerous. I get that. After Sarah died, I convinced myself Lily and I were enough, that we didn't need anyone else, that letting someone new in would somehow betray her memory. Do you still feel that way? Caleb thought about it. No, I think Sarah would want me to be happy, and I think she'd like you. You're strong, smart, and you take Lily seriously. Those would have mattered to her. I'm terrified, Evelyn admitted quietly, of screwing this up, of hurting you or Lily, of being too broken to be good at this. We're all a little broken. That's what makes us interesting. He turned to face her. And for what it's worth, I'm terrified too. But I'd rather be terrified with you than safe without you. She kissed him then, and this time there was less hesitation, more certainty. When they broke apart, she was smiling. Okay, let's be terrified together. Deal. They stayed on that couch until late, talking and not talking, figuring out the shape of whatever this was becoming. And when Evelyn finally left, with promises to text when she got home safe, Caleb stood in his doorway watching her tail lights disappear and thought about storms and choices, and the strange mathematics of kindness returned. His phone buzzed. Home safe. Thank you for tonight. For Lily? For lasagna. For being patient with someone who's learning how to let people in. He typed back. Thank you for being willing to learn. See you tomorrow? Tomorrow. And the day after that. Caleb walked back inside, checked on Lily, asleep with her purple hammer on the nightstand like a talisman, and allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, the worst was behind them. That the future could be something other than survival. That sometimes the universe gave back what it took away, just in different forms. And that stopping in the rain had been the best decision he'd ever made. The next 6 weeks moved like water finding its level, sometimes rushing, sometimes still, but always flowing forward. Evelyn became a fixture in their lives in the way important people do, not all at once, but in accumulated moments that built into something solid. She showed up for Lily's school art show on a Thursday evening, standing in the back of the gymnasium in her work clothes because she'd come straight from court. Lily spotted her immediately and dragged her to see every single piece of artwork in the entire exhibition, not just her own watercolor of a purple hammer surrounded by stars. This one is about friendship, Lily explained, pointing to a crayon drawing by her classmate Marcus. And this one is about dogs, obviously. And this one I think is supposed to be a house, but it looks more like a trapezoid with windows. Art is subjective, Evelyn said seriously. That's what Mrs. Patterson says when someone's drawing is weird, but she doesn't want to be mean. Caleb watched them from across the room, his daughter and this woman who'd somehow become essential, and felt the careful walls he'd built around his heart continue their steady collapse. Later, in the parking lot, Lily hugged Evelyn goodnight and whispered something Caleb couldn't hear. Evelyn's expression went soft and surprised, and she whispered something back that made Lily nod with satisfaction before skipping to the truck. What was that about? Caleb asked when they had a moment alone. She asked if I was going to stick around. I told her I planned to, if that was okay with her. And she said that I should know purple is her favorite color, sharks are cool but dolphins are cooler, and if I ever need help with anything important, she has a hammer. Evelyn's voice caught slightly. Then she said she was glad I stopped being just Dad's friend and started being her friend too. Caleb pulled her into a hug right there in the parking lot, not caring who saw. She doesn't let people in easy, not since Sarah. The fact that she's letting you in means everything. I don't want to replace her mother. You're not. You're being exactly who you are, and that's exactly who Lily needs. He kissed her forehead. Who we both need. They'd established a rhythm by then, dinners twice a week alternating between his place and hers. Weekend mornings at the farmer's market where Lily would convince them to buy honey sticks and fresh bread and flowers that probably cost too much. Movie nights where Evelyn would fall asleep during the second half because her weeks were brutal, and Caleb would carefully extract himself to carry Lily to bed without waking either of them. Evelyn's house was everything Caleb expected. Meticulously organized, decorated in clean neutrals, with a kitchen that looked like it had never seen actual cooking. The first time she invited them over, Lily immediately began a campaign to add color. You need throw pillows, she announced, surveying the living room like a tiny interior designer. And maybe some plants. Do you have plants? I had a succulent once. It died. How did you kill a succulent? They're literally designed not to die. I have a gift, Evelyn said dryly. By their third visit, there were throw pillows, purple ones naturally, and a small herb garden on the kitchen windowsill that Lily had declared herself personally responsible for. Evelyn pretended to be annoyed by the intrusion of color and life into her carefully controlled space, but Caleb caught her smiling at the basil plant more than once. What surprised him most was how easily Evelyn adapted to the chaos of their lives. She didn't flinch when Lily spilled juice on her couch, or when the purple hammer accidentally knocked a picture frame off the wall. She rolled with the punches, literally and figuratively, in a way that suggested maybe she'd been waiting for permission to be less perfect all along. But there were complications too. Evelyn's job created boundaries that couldn't be crossed. She couldn't be seen with Caleb in certain contexts, couldn't acknowledge their relationship publicly. When they ran into one of her colleagues at a restaurant, She'd introduced Caleb as a friend with such casual ease that it stung even though he understood the necessity. "I'm sorry," she said later in the car. "I hate that. I hate pretending you're not important. I know. It's okay. It's not okay. You deserve better than being hidden." "I'm not hidden." "Lily knows. Your sister knows." Evelyn had finally reconciled with her sister enough to mention she was seeing someone. The people who matter know. The rest is just professional necessity. Still feels like cowardice. It's not cowardice. It's survival. You've worked too hard to get where you are to risk it for anyone, even me. He reached across the console to take her hand. "I'm not going anywhere, Evelyn. I don't need public declarations. I just need you." She'd cried then, actually cried, which he'd only seen once before when Lily had given her a handmade card that said, "Thank you for making my dad smile again." The tears were silent and brief, but they were real. And Caleb understood they meant something significant for someone who'd spent her whole life being composed. The breaking point came on a Tuesday in early October. Caleb was at work when his phone rang. Lily's school, the principal's voice tight with professional concern. There'd been an incident. Lily had gotten into a fight. Could he come in immediately? His stomach dropped. Lily had never been in a fight in her life. She was opinionated and stubborn, but not violent. Something was wrong. He made it to the school in 15 minutes, breaking at least 3 traffic laws. The principal's office smelled like industrial cleaner and stress, and Lily sat in a chair outside looking small and furious and like she'd been crying. "Baby girl, what happened?" "Marcus said something mean, and I pushed him, and I'm not sorry." The principal, Mrs. Henderson, a woman who'd always seemed reasonable, invited Caleb into her office and explained the situation with the careful neutrality of someone delivering bad news. Marcus, Lily's former friend from art class, had said something about Caleb during recess. Something about the trial, about fraud, about how Lily's dad was a criminal who'd gotten away with it. Lily had told him to take it back. Marcus had doubled down. Lily had pushed him into the mulch. "I understand Lily was defending you," Mrs. Henderson said, "but we have a zero-tolerance policy on physical altercations. She'll need to serve a 1-day suspension." "He called my dad a criminal." Lily's voice came from the doorway, fierce and trembling. "He said you stole money and the judge let you go because she felt sorry for us. He said everyone knows it. I'm not going to let him say that and not do anything." Caleb's chest tightened. "Marcus said that?" Mrs. Henderson looked uncomfortable. "There has been talk among some of the parents about your trial. You have to understand this is a small community, and people gossip. I get it." Caleb kept his voice level with effort. "But my daughter is being punished for defending me against lies. She's being punished for pushing another student. The reason doesn't change the action." It was logical, fair even, but it felt like another punishment for something he hadn't done. Another consequence of Rick Stanton's lies that kept spreading like poison even after the truth came out. He took Lily home. She cried in the truck, angry tears, frustrated tears, the tears of a 7-year-old who'd tried to protect her father and gotten punished for it. "I hate Marcus," she sobbed. "I hate everyone who says mean things about you. I hate that people think you're bad when you're the best person I know. Baby girl, come here." He pulled over into a parking lot and unbuckled her seatbelt so she could climb into his lap like she used to when she was smaller. "You can't fight every person who says something mean about me. You'll spend your whole life fighting." "But it's not fair." "No, it's not fair. But pushing Marcus didn't make him take it back, did it?" "No," she admitted miserably. "So what did it accomplish?" "I don't know. Made me feel better for like 5 seconds. Then worse." "Yeah, that's how fighting usually works." He kissed the top of her head. "I'm proud of you for wanting to defend me. That took courage. But next time, use your words. Tell a teacher. Walk away. Save your energy for battles that matter." "But you matter." "I know I do. And the people who know me really know me. They know the truth. Everyone else? Their opinion doesn't change who I am. It just shows who they are." Lily was quiet for a moment, processing. Then, Can we call Evelyn? Why? Because she always knows what to say when things are bad. Caleb's throat tightened. His 7-year-old had just articulated something he'd been feeling but hadn't named, that Evelyn had become their person to call when things fell apart. He called. Evelyn answered on the second ring, her voice immediately concerned. Is everything okay? Not really. You have a few minutes? For you? Always. What happened? He explained the situation, the fight, the suspension, the gossip that was apparently still circulating months after his exoneration. Lily interjected with her own version of events, and Evelyn listened to both without interrupting. When they finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then, Lily, can I tell you something? Yes. When I was your age, my parents were going through their divorce. Kids at school said terrible things about my family, about my mom and dad. Some of it was true, some of it was lies, but all of it hurt. And I wanted to fight everyone who said anything. Did you? Once. I punched a girl named Rebecca who said my dad didn't love me anymore. You know what happened? What? I got suspended, Rebecca got sympathy, and the gossip got worse because now I was the violent kid from the broken home. Evelyn's voice was gentle but firm. Fighting didn't make me feel better. It made me feel worse. What did make me feel better was remembering that the people who loved me knew the truth. And the people who didn't? They didn't matter enough to let them control my actions. Lily sniffled. So I shouldn't have pushed Marcus. You were protecting someone you love. That instinct is good. But the method needs work. Next time, tell him his opinion is noted and irrelevant, then walk away. It'll make him way more frustrated than a push ever could. Really? Trust me, nothing makes mean people angrier than being ignored. Caleb could hear the smile in Lily's voice when she said, You're really smart, Evelyn. I've had a lot of practice dealing with difficult people. It's literally my job. They talked for a few more minutes, Evelyn managing to make Lily laugh about the absurdity of Marcus's logic and the importance of choosing battles wisely. By the time they hung up, Lily was calmer. The storm of her emotions settled into something more manageable. I like that she gets it, Lily said as Caleb drove them home. Like, really gets it. Not just I understand in the fake way adults say, but actually gets it. Yeah, she does. Are you going to marry her? The question came out so casually that Caleb nearly missed his turn. What? Are you going to marry Evelyn? Because I think you should. She makes you happy and she's nice to me and she knows purple is the best color. Those are all important qualifications. Marriage is complicated, baby girl. Why? You love her, right? Did he? Caleb tested the word in his mind, tried it on like a coat he wasn't sure fit. But the moment he did, he realized it had been true for weeks, maybe longer. He loved Evelyn Cross. Her sharp intelligence and hidden softness, her terrible cooking and her surprising patience with the 7-year-old's endless questions, the way she looked at him like he was someone worth seeing. Yeah, he said quietly. I think I do. Then you should marry her. That's how it works. There are steps between I love her and marriage, Lily. Like what? Like dating for a while, making sure we're compatible, talking about the future. You've been dating for weeks. You're super compatible. You both like coffee and me and being nice to people. And the future is just more of now but later. Those are dumb reasons not to ask her. When did you become a relationship expert? I'm 7. I know everything. Caleb laughed despite the weight of the day. Okay, relationship expert. If, and this is a big if, I were to consider asking Evelyn to marry me someday, what would you think about that? Lily didn't even hesitate. I think it would be good. She could live with us and help you cook because you're bad at it. And she could be like a mom, but not replacing mom, because nobody can do that. She'd just be Evelyn. Our Evelyn. Our Evelyn, Caleb repeated softly. I like that. That night, after Lily was asleep, Caleb sat on his porch with a beer he wasn't really drinking and thought about futures he'd stopped letting himself imagine. Marriage, family, someone to build a life with who wasn't a ghost. His phone buzzed with a text from Evelyn. How is she? Better. You helped a lot. Good. And how are you? Caleb stared at that question for a long moment. How was he? Tired, frustrated, angry at the gossip that wouldn't die, but also grateful for a daughter who fought for him and a woman who knew exactly what to say to calm her down. I'm okay. Lily asked me if I was going to marry you. The three dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, that's a hell of a question. What did you tell her? That relationships have steps and we're still on early steps. Very diplomatic. And what do you actually think? Caleb's fingers hovered over the keyboard. This was the moment where he could deflect, make a joke, keep things light, or he could tell the truth. I think I love you. I think I've loved you for a while now. And I think Lily's right about a lot of things, including this. The dots appeared immediately. Caleb Mercer, are you telling me you love me via text message? Would you rather I said it in person? Yes, obviously. Then come over. Now? It's almost 10. Now. 20 minutes later, Evelyn pulled into his driveway. She was wearing sweatpants and an old law school t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, and she looked more beautiful than Caleb had ever seen her. She got out of the car and walked straight to where he was standing on the porch. Say it again. I love you. Again. I love you, Evelyn Cross. I love your terrible cooking and your obsession with proper coffee and the way you take Lily seriously. I love that you demanded forensic verification when you could have let the prosecution's case slide. I love that you're here at 10 p.m. in sweatpants because I asked you to come over. I love... She kissed him, cutting off the words. When they broke apart, she was crying again, those quiet, surprised tears that meant she hadn't expected to feel something this big. I love you too, she whispered. I didn't think I could. I didn't think I had room for this. But somehow you and Lily just fit, like pieces I didn't know were missing. So what do we do about it? I have no idea. I've never done this before. Not like this. Not with someone who has a child and a complicated past and a future I want to be part of. Lily thinks we should get married. Evelyn laughed, the sound wet with tears. She's 7. She's 7 and smart and apparently has very strong opinions about our relationship. What do you think? Caleb pulled her closer until they were standing on his porch wrapped around each other like two people trying to share warmth. I think it's too soon. I think we need more time. But I also think I want to marry you someday. When we're ready, when it makes sense. How will we know when it makes sense? I don't know. Maybe when it stops feeling scary and starts feeling inevitable. And if it always feels a little scary, then we're scared together, like we agreed. They went inside and sat on his couch, talking until nearly midnight about futures and fears, and what it meant to blend lives that had been separate for so long. Evelyn worried about being a stepmother, about whether she could ever be enough for a child who'd lost her mother. Caleb worried about the gossip following him, about whether Evelyn's reputation could survive being associated with him. People already think I'm cold, Evelyn said. Let them think I'm cold enough to date a supposed criminal. Their opinion doesn't define me. What if it gets worse? What if the talk spreads? What if it affects your career? Then it does. And I'll handle it. I've handled worse. She cupped his face in her hands. You are not a burden, Caleb. You're not damaged goods. You're a good man who got screwed over by a bad system, and anyone who can't see that isn't worth my time or energy. How are you so sure? Because I watched you stop in a rainstorm for a stranger. Because I read every piece of evidence in your case and saw the lies for what they were. Because I've seen you with your daughter and I know what kind of father you are. That's not something you can fake. They fell asleep on the couch, tangled together. And when Caleb woke around 3 a.m. to Lily standing beside them holding her purple hammer like a weapon, he nearly had a heart attack. Lily, what are you doing? I heard voices. I thought someone broke in. She lowered the hammer, looking embarrassed. Oh, it's just Evelyn. Just Evelyn, who you almost brained with a hammer. I wouldn't have actually hit her. Probably. Maybe. I don't know. I was half asleep. Evelyn was laughing, fully awake now. That's the most alarming thing anyone's ever said to me, and I sentence criminals for a living. Sorry, did you guys fall asleep talking? That's boring. Adults are weird. Very weird, Evelyn agreed. Go back to bed, Lily. I promise no one's breaking in. Are you staying over? Caleb and Evelyn exchanged a look. They hadn't discussed that yet. The logistics of sleepovers with a 7-year-old in the house, the message it sent, the complexity it added. Not tonight, Evelyn said gently, but maybe sometime soon if that's okay with you. It's okay with me. I like when you're here. The house feels more full. After Lily trudged back to bed, Evelyn stood to leave. I should go. It's late and you both need actual sleep. Stay, Caleb said. Not like that, just stay. Sleep in the guest room. Have breakfast with us. Be part of a normal Wednesday morning. I have court at 9. Then we'll get up early, please? She stayed. The next morning was chaotic in the best way. Lily monopolizing Evelyn's attention while Caleb made pancakes that were only slightly burned, everyone rushing to get ready on time, the easy chaos of a family morning that neither Caleb nor Evelyn had quite expected to feel so natural. As Evelyn left for work, professionally dressed and carrying the travel mug Caleb had bought specifically for her, Lily called from the doorway, "Bye, Evelyn. Love you." Evelyn froze, turned, stared at Lily with an expression Caleb couldn't quite read. Then, very quietly, "Love you too, kiddo." After her car disappeared down the street, Lily turned to Caleb with satisfaction. "See? She loves us. You should definitely marry her. You're relentless. I'm efficient. There's a difference." That afternoon, Caleb got a text. "Your daughter just told me she loves me, and I cried in my car for 10 minutes. I'm in my chambers pretending to review case files. Send help." He typed back, "Welcome to the family. It's terrifying and wonderful, and there's no going back now. Good. I don't want to go back." The suspension was hard. Lily spent the day at her grandmother's, helping in the garden and writing an apology letter to Marcus that she clearly didn't mean but wrote anyway because Evelyn had suggested it was good practice in diplomatic insincerity. But the gossip began to fade, slowly, as new scandals emerged and people found other things to talk about. Rick Stanton went to trial 3 weeks later. Caleb didn't attend, didn't need to see the man who'd tried to destroy his life face justice. But Evelyn presided, and when the guilty verdict came in, she called Caleb that night with quiet satisfaction in her voice. "It's over. Really over. He's going to prison for what he did." "How long?" 7 years. Fraud, perjury, evidence tampering. The DA threw everything at him. Caleb felt something release in his chest, a tension he hadn't realized he was still carrying. "Thank you. For everything. I just did my job. You did more than that. You saved my life. Twice. And you saved mine in a rainstorm. I think we're even. I think we're just getting started." 3 months after that Tuesday in October, on a Saturday morning that felt like any other Saturday, Caleb woke up to find Lily sitting on his bed holding a small velvet box. "Where did you get that?" he asked, his heart jumping. "Your sock drawer. I was looking for my missing purple sock, and I found this instead. Is it what I think it is?" "Lily, are you going to ask Evelyn to marry you?" Caleb sat up, rubbing sleep from his eyes. The ring had been hidden in his sock drawer for 2 weeks, a simple platinum band with a small diamond. Nothing flashy, but real and solid and permanent. He'd been waiting for the right moment, the perfect timing, some cosmic sign that now was when he should ask. Maybe, eventually, when the time is right. "The time is right now, Dad. You love her, she loves us. We're already basically a family. What are you waiting for?" "I don't know. Certainty, I guess. Some guarantee it'll work out." Lily looked at him with the kind of wisdom that 7-year-olds shouldn't possess, but somehow did. "Mom used to say the only guarantee in life is that nothing's guaranteed. She said you just have to jump and trust you'll figure out the flying part on the way down." Caleb's eyes stung. "She did say that, didn't she?" "Yeah, so jump, Dad. Ask Evelyn to marry you. I'll help." "You'll help?" "Obviously. This is too important to mess up. You need my expertise." And that's how Caleb found himself planning a proposal with his 7-year-old daughter, who had very specific ideas about how it should happen and absolutely no patience for his hesitation. Lily's plan was simultaneously brilliant and terrifying. We take her to the hardware store, she explained with the confidence of a military strategist. Where you first saw each other again. That's romantic. Then you get down on one knee in the hammer aisle. The hammer aisle? Yes, because that's where we were when you ran into her. It's symbolic. Lily, I can't propose in a hardware store that's perfect. It's perfect because it's real. Mom always said the best moments happen in regular places, not fancy ones. Remember? She said that. Caleb did remember. Sarah had said it when he'd apologized for proposing in their apartment instead of somewhere grand. She'd told him the location didn't matter, only the question and the answer and the life they'd build together. Okay, he heard himself say. Hardware store it is. Good, and I'll be there too, obviously. Obviously? Dad, I'm part of this. If you're asking her to marry you, you're asking her to be my stepmom. I should be there. It's only fair. The logic was sound, even if the execution would be unconventional. But then again, nothing about their relationship had been conventional. Why should the proposal be any different? They spent the next week planning. Lily insisted they needed a backup hammer, in case something goes wrong with the original plan, and made Caleb rehearse the proposal 17 times until she was satisfied he wouldn't fumble the words. She also appointed herself ring bearer, which wasn't technically necessary since they were in a hardware store and not a church, but Caleb had learned to pick his battles. The hardest part was acting normal around Evelyn. She'd started staying over most weekends now, sleeping in the guest room to maintain some boundary Lily had already stopped caring about. They'd fallen into an easy domestic rhythm: Saturday morning farmers market, Sunday brunch that Caleb cooked because Evelyn's idea of cooking was reheating takeout, lazy afternoons where Evelyn caught up on case files while Lily drew and Caleb fixed things around the house that had been broken for months. It felt like marriage already, minus the legal documentation and the proposal Caleb was carrying around like a live grenade. On Tuesday, Evelyn noticed something was off. "You're being weird," she said over dinner, pasta primavera, that only slightly overcooked. "More weird than usual." "I'm not being weird." "You are. You keep looking at me and then looking away quickly. And you asked me what my ring size was yesterday." Caleb's heart stopped. "I did?" "Yes, you said it was for, and I quote, general information purposes, which is possibly the least subtle thing anyone's ever said." Lily, who'd been suspiciously quiet during this exchange, suddenly became very interested in her pasta. "Are you planning something?" Evelyn pressed, her judge voice coming out, the one that suggested lying would be inadvisable. "Maybe." "Caleb, it's a surprise. You'll find out soon." She studied him with those sharp eyes that had once torn apart a prosecution's case. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled. "Okay, I can do surprises. Just don't do anything crazy, all right? I'm a simple woman with simple needs." "You literally wear judicial robes to work. Nothing about you is simple." "Fair point. But still, whatever you're planning, I'm sure I'll love it." After Evelyn left that night, Lily turned to Caleb with barely contained excitement. "She knows. She doesn't know. She suspects. Same thing. We need to do it soon before she figures it out completely. This Saturday, at the hardware store. Final answer." This Saturday is 3 days away. Exactly. Perfect timing. Caleb texted Evelyn late that night. "Are you free Saturday afternoon? Want to take Lily to get some supplies for her art project?" The response came immediately. "Hardware store supplies for an art project? That's suspicious. She wants to build something, needs wood and nails and stuff." "Okay. What time? 2 p.m.? It's a date." Caleb stared at those 3 words, "It's a date," and felt his stomach flip. If everything went according to plan, this would be their last date as boyfriend and girlfriend. After Saturday, they'd be engaged. Fiancés. On their way to being married. The magnitude of it hit him all at once. He was going to ask Evelyn Cross to marry him, the woman who'd been a stranger in a rainstorm, a judge in a courtroom, and somehow became the person he couldn't imagine living without. His phone buzzed again. "You're being weird again, aren't you? I can feel it through the phone. Maybe a little. Good weird or bad weird? Definitely good weird. I hope. Then I'll see you Saturday. With your good weird energy, and whatever this mysterious art project is. Looking forward to it. Me too. Love you, Caleb. Love you too. He set the phone down and found Lily standing in the doorway of his bedroom, already in her pajamas, her purple hammer tucked under one arm like a security blanket. 3 more days, she said. 3 more days. Are you nervous? Terrified. Good. That means it matters. She climbed into bed next to him, something she only did when she needed comfort or had something important to say. Can I tell you a secret? Always. Sometimes I forget what Mom looked like. Not in pictures, but like her real face. The way she moved. I used to remember perfectly, but now it's getting fuzzy. Caleb's throat tightened. That's normal, baby girl. It happens. Doesn't mean you loved her less. I know, but it makes me sad. And then I feel guilty because I'm not sad all the time anymore. Because we have Evelyn now and she makes us happy. And sometimes I forget to be sad about Mom because I'm too busy being happy about everything else. Oh, Lily. He pulled her close. You're allowed to be happy. Mom would want you to be happy. She'd want both of us to be happy. Do you think she'd like Evelyn? I think she'd love her. I think she'd love that Evelyn takes care of us and makes terrible coffee and listens to your hammer theories. I think she'd be grateful someone like Evelyn exists to help us keep going. Do you think she knows about the proposal? Caleb thought about that. He wasn't religious in any organized way, didn't have strong beliefs about afterlife or heaven or where people went when they died. But he liked to think Sarah was somewhere, somehow, watching over them, cheering them on. Yeah, I think she knows, and I think she approves. Lily was quiet for a long moment. Then, when you ask Evelyn to marry you, can you tell her that I want her to be my mom? Not replacing my real mom, but like my now mom? Is that okay to say? I think that's perfect to say, and I think Evelyn will love hearing it. Good, because I've been practicing. She cleared her throat dramatically and said in her most serious voice, Evelyn, I would be honored if you would consider becoming my parental figure in an official capacity while respecting the memory of my biological mother. Caleb burst out laughing. Where did you learn to talk like that? I've been watching courtroom shows. I'm preparing for when I become a lawyer. You want to be a lawyer now? Maybe. Or an engineer. Or a professional hammer consultant. I haven't decided. The point is, I'm being diplomatic. How about you just say it like Lily, not like a tiny lawyer? She considered this. Okay, how about Evelyn? I really want you to be my mom because you're awesome and you make Dad happy and you didn't die when you tried my cooking that one time. Perfect. Though maybe skip the part about not dying from your cooking. But it's true. I made those cookies and they were basically rocks. They were crunchy. They were weapons. Evelyn ate one anyway and said they were an interesting texture. That's love, Dad. Saturday arrived with the kind of perfect autumn weather that felt orchestrated by the universe. Cool, but not cold. Sunny, but not harsh. The kind of day that made you believe good things were possible. Caleb spent the morning in controlled panic. He checked the ring 17 times to make sure it was still in his pocket. Rehearsed the proposal speech Lily had approved. Changed his shirt 3 times before Lily told him he looked fine and to stop being ridiculous. You're making this bigger than it needs to be, she said, watching him pace the living room. Just ask her. She's going to say yes. She loves us. What if she's not ready? She's ready. Trust me. How do you know? Because last week I asked her if she'd ever want to live with us, and she said, I'd like that very much. That's basically pre-approval. You asked her that? Obviously. I needed intelligence. You're welcome. At 1:30, Caleb was ready to call the whole thing off. By 1:45, Lily had talked him back down from the ledge. And at exactly 2 p.m., Evelyn pulled into the driveway wearing jeans and a soft green sweater that made her eyes impossible to look away from. You look nice, Caleb managed. So do you. Very nice for a hardware store trip. She studied him suspiciously. Seriously, what's going on? Art project. Like I said. Uh-huh. But she let it go, following them to the truck with the kind of patient curiosity that suggested she knew something was happening but was choosing to be surprised. The hardware store was moderately busy for a Saturday afternoon. Enough people that they wouldn't be completely alone, but not so crowded that the moment would be impossible. Caleb's hands were sweating. His heart was trying to escape through his ribs. The ring box in his pocket felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Lily grabbed a shopping cart with the seriousness of someone on a mission. Okay, we need to go to the lumber section first, for the project. What exactly are you building? Evelyn asked. It's complicated. You'll see. They wandered through the store, Lily leading them on what seemed like a deliberately circuitous route. She pointed out different types of wood, asked detailed questions about nails versus screws, and generally behaved like someone stalling for time. Finally, inevitably, they ended up in the electrical aisle, the exact spot where Caleb had run into Evelyn months ago, where she'd been looking at battery terminals and he'd been picking up plumbing supplies, and Lily had been examining hammers with rainbow handles. Oh, Evelyn said softly, recognizing the location. This is where we found each other again, Caleb finished. Yeah. Lily positioned herself strategically and gave Caleb a look that clearly said now or never. He took a breath, let it out, tried to remember the speech he'd rehearsed. Evelyn, His mind went blank. Every carefully prepared word evaporated. He stood there like an idiot, sweating in a hardware store, while the love of his life watched him with growing understanding. Caleb? Her voice was gentle. Are you okay? No, yes, maybe. I had a whole speech planned, but I can't remember any of it. Lily made me practice 17 times, and I've forgotten everything. It was a good speech, too, Lily confirmed. Very romantic. Evelyn's eyes went wide. Caleb, are you? Give me a second. He pulled the ring box from his pocket, and Evelyn's hand flew to her mouth. Okay, I can do this. Evelyn, I stopped in a rainstorm because it was the right thing to do. I had no idea that decision would lead here, that the woman I helped would become the woman who saved my life, who saved me, not just in court, but in every way that matters. Tears were already streaming down Evelyn's face. You made me believe in good things again, in futures that don't end in disaster, in love that doesn't come with an expiration date. You took my broken life and my complicated kid and somehow made room for both of us. And I know it's only been a few months, and I know there are 1,000 logical reasons to wait. But I don't want to wait. I want to build a life with you. I want Saturday mornings at the farmer's market and terrible coffee and watching you fall asleep during movies. I want to be the person you come home to when court is terrible, and the person who makes you laugh when everything else is too serious. Yes, Evelyn interrupted, laughing and crying simultaneously. Yes, whatever you're about to ask, yes. I haven't actually asked yet. Then ask. Caleb dropped to one knee right there in the electrical aisle of a hardware store, other shoppers stopping to stare, and opened the ring box. Evelyn Cross, will you marry me? Yes, absolutely yes. He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly because Lily had somehow extracted her ring size weeks ago, and then Evelyn was pulling him up and kissing him and crying and laughing all at once. You proposed in a hardware store, she said between kisses. You beautiful, ridiculous man, you proposed in a hardware store. It's where we found each other again. Lily said it was symbolic. It's perfect. It's completely perfect. Lily cleared her throat loudly. Excuse me, I have something to say too. Evelyn turned to her, still holding Caleb's hand, her face streaked with happy tears. What is it, sweetie? Lily took a deep breath and abandoned all pretense of diplomatic language. I really want you to be my mom, not replacing my real mom because nobody can do that, but my now mom, my everyday mom, the mom who's here. Is that okay? Evelyn dropped to her knees, pulling Lily into a hug so tight they both swayed. It's more than okay. It's everything I want. I love you, Lily. I love both of you so much. So you'll be my mom? I'd be honored. Good. Because I already told everyone at school you were going to be my stepmom, and it would be really embarrassing if I was wrong. Evelyn laughed, the sound slightly hysterical. You told everyone at school? Last week, I was very confident. A small crowd had gathered, other shoppers, a couple of employees, all watching this bizarre hardware store proposal with varying degrees of amusement and emotion. Someone started clapping, then someone else. Within seconds, there was applause echoing through the electrical aisle, while Caleb, Evelyn, and Lily stood there laughing and crying and holding on to each other. "This is insane," Evelyn said. "Completely," Caleb agreed. "I love it. I love you. I love this whole ridiculous situation." "Does this mean we can get a dog now?" Lily asked. "Because if we're going to be a real family, we need a family dog." "We'll discuss it," Caleb and Evelyn said in perfect unison, then looked at each other and burst out laughing. They didn't buy any art supplies, didn't even pretend to look at lumber or nails or whatever Lily's fictional project had required. They just walked out of the hardware store engaged, Evelyn stopping every few steps to look at her ring and then at Caleb like she couldn't quite believe it was real. In the parking lot, she pulled him aside while Lily was distracted by someone's golden retriever. "I need to tell you something," Evelyn said. "That sounds ominous." "Not ominous, just honest." She twisted the ring on her finger. "I never thought I'd get married. I convinced myself I was too difficult, too focused on work, too damaged from my parents' divorce to be good at this. And then you stopped in a rainstorm and everything changed. You're not damaged. We're all a little damaged, but you make me want to try anyway. You make me believe I can be good at this, at being a partner, a stepmother, a wife. You make me want to be softer without losing my strength. Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense. I'm going to mess up sometimes. I'm going to work too late and be too rigid and forget that not everything needs to be solved like a legal problem. And I'm going to be broke sometimes and make questionable parenting decisions and burn dinner. We'll figure it out together." "Together," Evelyn repeated, testing the word. "I like the sound of that." They kissed again, slower this time, savoring it. When they broke apart, Lily was standing next to them, holding a small card. "That dog owner gave me this," she announced. "It's for a golden retriever breeder. She said they have puppies available in 6 weeks. I'm just providing information." "Of course you are," Caleb said. "Just so you know, engaged couples often get dogs. It's basically tradition. I looked it up." Evelyn was laughing again, that free, unguarded laugh that Caleb had learned meant she was genuinely happy. "We'll think about it." That's not a no. It's not a yes either, but it's not a no. I'm counting this as progress. They drove home engaged, Lily in the back seat singing made-up songs about weddings and hammers and dogs, while Caleb and Evelyn kept sneaking glances at each other like teenagers with a secret. At home, they called Evelyn's sister first, who screamed so loud they had to hold the phone away from their ears. Then Caleb's mother-in-law, who cried happy tears and said Sarah would have loved Evelyn, and this was exactly what their family needed. "Your mother would be so proud," she told Caleb, "not just that you're moving forward, but who you're moving forward with. Evelyn's good people." "The best people," Caleb agreed, watching his fiancé that would take getting used to, help Lily draw wedding plans that involved an alarming number of purple hammers and at least 3 dogs. That night, after Lily finally exhausted herself into sleep, Caleb and Evelyn sat on the porch with glasses of wine they weren't really drinking. "This is real," Evelyn said. "We're actually engaged." "Having second thoughts?" "Not even a little. You?" "None. Though I am having thoughts about wedding logistics. Your job makes things complicated." "It does. We'll need to be smart about it. Probably a small ceremony, immediate family only. Definitely not while I'm presiding over any cases that might create conflicts." "Lily wants purple hammers involved somehow." "Of course she does, and honestly, I'm not opposed. This whole thing started with a battery terminal and a rainstorm. Why not continue the hardware store theme?" "You're serious?" "Why not? Traditional weddings are overrated. Let's do something that's actually us." Us is apparently electrical aisles and random acts of kindness. Exactly. Plus a very opinionated 7-year-old with strong feelings about color coordination and family pets. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the streetlights flicker on as evening settled into night. Somewhere down the block, someone was grilling. A dog barked. Normal Saturday evening sounds in a normal neighborhood where extraordinary things had happened. "Can I ask you something?" Evelyn said. "Anything." "Do you ever think about that night, the rainstorm? What would have happened if you'd kept driving?" Caleb considered it. "Sometimes, but then I remember I didn't keep driving. I stopped. And everything that came after, the trial, the exoneration, finding you again, all of it happened because I made that choice. Do you believe in fate? I believe in decisions, in people choosing to be kind when it's inconvenient, in strangers who stop in storms and judges who demand truth even when it's complicated. I believe in us, Evelyn. However we got here, fate, luck, coincidence, doesn't matter as much as what we do with it. Philosopher and warehouse worker, multi-talented. I have hidden depths. I'm discovering that. She leaned against him. I'm going to be your wife. I'm going to be your husband. Oh, Lily's going to be our daughter. We might get a dog. We're absolutely getting a dog. She's never going to stop asking until we do. Probably true. They stayed out there until the cold drove them inside, talking about nothing and everything. Wedding dates and guest lists and whether they should live in his house or hers or find someplace new that belonged to both of them. Practical things and impossible things and all the beautiful, complicated reality of two lives becoming one. Later, much later, when Evelyn was asleep in the guest room and Caleb was lying in his own bed staring at the ceiling, he thought about circles and how they close, about rainstorms and courtrooms and hardware stores, about a woman who'd been a stranger and became a savior and was now his future. His phone buzzed with a text. Can't sleep, too happy, is that a thing? Definitely a thing, me too. I keep looking at the ring, making sure it's real. It's real. You're stuck with us now. Good. I don't want to be unstuck. See you tomorrow? See you tomorrow. And every tomorrow after that. Caleb set the phone down and let himself smile in the darkness. Tomorrow, Evelyn would come over for breakfast. Lily would campaign for the dog with renewed vigor. They'd probably end up at the farmer's market or the hardware store or just sitting on the porch talking about futures they were building together. It wouldn't be perfect. There would be hard days and complicated moments and times when they'd have to navigate the messy reality of blending lives and raising a child and balancing Evelyn's demanding career with Caleb's simpler but no less important work. But they'd figure it out, together. Because that's what you did when someone stopped in a rainstorm, when someone demanded forensic verification, when someone chose kindness and truth and love even when it was difficult. You built a life, a family, a future, one decision at a time, one day at a time, one hardware store proposal at a time, and somehow, impossibly, it all added up to something beautiful. The engagement lasted exactly 43 days before Lily decided it was taking too long. Most people wait a year, Caleb explained over breakfast on a Wednesday morning. Sometimes longer. There's planning involved, venues to book, invitations to send. That's boring and unnecessary, Lily countered, stabbing her pancakes with the conviction of someone who'd clearly given this considerable thought. You love each other. Evelyn wants to be my mom. What else do you need to know? It's not about knowing, it's about doing it right. Right according to who? People who don't even know us? She pointed her fork at him. Evelyn said her parents had a huge wedding with 300 people and they were divorced in 5 years. You and Mom got married in your apartment and you were together until she died. Big weddings don't mean anything. The logic was sound, even if the delivery was blunt. Evelyn, who'd stayed over and was currently attempting to make coffee in Caleb's kitchen with minimal success, laughed from the doorway. She's not wrong, Evelyn said, though I'm not sure I love being used as a cautionary tale about my parents' failed marriage. Sorry, Lily said, not sounding sorry at all. But my point stands. You guys should just get married, soon, like next month. Next month? Caleb nearly choked on his coffee. Lily, that's plenty of time. You pick a date, invite like 10 people, and boom, married. Then Evelyn can move in and we can get the dog. Everything comes back to the dog with you. Because dogs are important. A family needs a dog. It's science. Evelyn slid into the seat next to Caleb, her coffee looking more like colored water than actual coffee, but she drank it anyway. What if we compromised? Not next month, but not a year from now either. Something in between. You're actually considering this? Caleb asked. I'm considering that Lily has a point. We're not 20-year-olds who need time to figure out if we're compatible. We're adults with a child and jobs and a pretty clear sense of what we want. Why wait? Because there's planning. Your family, my family, coordinating schedules, My family is my sister, who lives in Seattle and will come whenever we tell her to. Your family is your mother-in-law, who lives 20 minutes away and has already told you she approves. Who else matters? Caleb looked between his fiancée and his daughter, both watching him with identical expressions of determination, and felt the ground shift beneath him in the best possible way. Are you seriously suggesting we plan a wedding in 2 months? I'm suggesting we stop overthinking it, Evelyn said. Pick a date, keep it small. Invite the people who actually matter, get married, start our actual life instead of planning for it. See? Lily pointed at Evelyn triumphantly. She gets it. This is why I wanted her to be my mom. I haven't agreed to anything yet, Caleb protested weakly. But you're going to, Lily said with certainty, because you know we're right. The terrible thing was, they were right. Caleb had been operating under the assumption that weddings required elaborate planning and lengthy engagements because that's what people did. But people also didn't meet their future spouse by stopping in a rainstorm or propose in hardware stores or fall in love with a judge who'd presided over their trial. Nothing about their relationship had been traditional. Why should their wedding be? Okay, he heard himself say. 2 months? Small ceremony, family only, but we do it right. No cutting corners just to rush it. Lily pumped her fist. Yes, I'm telling everyone at school we're getting a new mom. You already told everyone at school, Evelyn reminded her. Now I get to tell them we have a date. That's different. After Lily left for school and Evelyn headed to court, Caleb sat alone in his kitchen with the reality of what they'd just decided. 2 months to plan a wedding. 2 months until Evelyn Cross became Evelyn Mercer. Or maybe she'd keep Cross professionally. They hadn't discussed that yet. 2 months until their family became official in every legal and emotional sense. It should have felt overwhelming. Instead, it felt exactly right. His phone buzzed with a text from Evelyn. Did we really just agree to get married in 8 weeks? I think we did. Are you freaking out? Surprisingly, no. You? No. Actually excited. Is that weird? Given that our entire relationship has been weird, I think it's perfectly on brand. Fair point. Lunch today? We should probably start actually planning this thing. Meet you at the Italian place at noon? It's a date. Also, I love you. Also, Lily's right about the dog. Don't encourage her. Too late. Already looking at golden retriever rescues. Caleb laughed and set the phone down, feeling lighter than he had in years. Maybe decades. The weight of the trial, of Sarah's death, of single parenthood and financial stress, and every other burden he'd carried for so long was finally, genuinely lifting. He wasn't naive enough to think life would suddenly be perfect. There would still be hard days, still be moments of doubt or difficulty or the normal friction of people learning to live together. But for the first time since Sarah died, Caleb could imagine a future that wasn't just survival. He could imagine joy. At lunch, Evelyn arrived with a small notebook and the focused determination of someone approaching wedding planning like a legal case. I made a list, she announced, sliding into the booth. Requirements, timeline, potential obstacles. You made a case file for our wedding? I made an organizational framework. There's a difference. Is there, though? She stuck her tongue out at him, a gesture so unlike Judge Cross and so perfectly Evelyn that Caleb fell a little more in love right there over mediocre breadsticks. They spent the next hour hammering out details. The date, a Saturday in early December, 8 weeks away, right before the holidays made everything impossible. The location, debated extensively before Evelyn suggested something that made perfect sense and no sense simultaneously. The courthouse, she said. My courthouse. After hours. Just us and whoever we invite. You want to get married in a courthouse? You work in a courthouse. Exactly. It's where we met. Technically. Where our lives intersected in a way that mattered. It feels appropriate. Won't that be weird? Getting married in the place where you sentence people? I don't sentence people in the judge's chambers, which is where I'm thinking. It's actually beautiful. Wood paneling, big windows, very stately. We could do the ceremony there, then have dinner somewhere nice. The more Caleb thought about it, the more it made sense. The courthouse was significant to them in ways most venues wouldn't be. It was where Evelyn had saved him, where justice had been served, where their story had turned from coincidence into something deliberate. "Okay," he said. "Courthouse it is. Who officiates?" "I have a colleague who's authorized, Judge Morrison. She's presided over about 100 weddings and only cries at half of them." "Those are good odds." "Very promising statistics." They worked through the rest. Guest list kept to immediate family, Lily as flower girl or ring bearer or whatever title she demanded, colors that would inevitably involve purple somehow, and the question of Evelyn's last name. "I'm keeping cross professionally," she said. "It's what I'm known as on the bench, but personally I'd like to be Evelyn Mercer, if that's okay." "It's more than okay." "Good, because I've been practicing the signature and I like how it looks." "You've been practicing your married signature?" "For 3 weeks. I'm a planner, Caleb. This shouldn't surprise you." He reached across the table to take her hand, running his thumb over the engagement ring that had become permanent fixture. "I love that you plan. I love that you're excited about this. I love that you want to marry me in the place where you literally could have sent me to prison. When you put it that way, it sounds concerning. It sounds like us." "Yeah," Evelyn smiled. "It really does." The next 8 weeks were a controlled chaos of planning and work and normal life all happening simultaneously. Evelyn's caseload got heavier as the year-end approached. Caleb picked up overtime at the warehouse to help pay for the wedding and the honeymoon they were planning, a long weekend at a cabin in the mountains, nothing fancy but peaceful and theirs. Lily threw herself into wedding preparations with the intensity of a project manager who'd found her calling. She had opinions about flowers, purple roses, obviously, and about the cake, chocolate because vanilla is for people without imagination, and about the music. Nothing boring, Dad. No one wants to fall asleep at a wedding. Evelyn's sister flew in a week early to help, and immediately bonded with Lily over their shared conviction that Caleb needed better shoes for the ceremony. "These are fine," Caleb protested, looking at his only pair of dress shoes. "These are tragic," Evelyn's sister Rebecca countered. "Come on, we're going shopping." "I don't need—" "Dad," Lily used her serious voice, "you're marrying a judge. You need good shoes. This is non-negotiable." He ended up with new shoes, a new tie, and somehow a new watch that Rebecca insisted was essential. When he tried to argue about the cost, Evelyn quietly paid for everything and told him to shut up about it. "You stopped in a rainstorm for me," she said. "I can buy you a watch." "That's not how this works." "That's exactly how this works. Let me do nice things for you, Caleb. You're always taking care of everyone else. Let someone take care of you for once." It was harder than it should have been, accepting help, accepting that he deserved nice things and people who wanted to give them to him. But he was learning. Slowly, with Evelyn's patient insistence and Lily's blunt encouragement, he was learning. The dog situation resolved itself 3 weeks before the wedding when Lily came home from school with an announcement. "Mrs. Patterson's dog had puppies, golden retrievers. She's giving them away in 2 weeks. I already called dibs on the one with the white paw." "You called dibs?" "I told her my parents were getting married and we needed a family dog, and she said that was very responsible planning. So technically, it's your fault for raising me to be responsible." Caleb looked at Evelyn, who was trying very hard not to laugh. "Did you know about this?" "I may have suggested to Lily that Mrs. Patterson's dog was pregnant, in a completely innocent informational way." "You're conspiring with my daughter against me." "I prefer to think of it as collaborative parenting." They got the dog, a golden retriever puppy that Lily immediately named Thunder because he's loud and powerful and has a white lightning bolt on his paw. The puppy was chaos incarnate, chewing everything and having accidents on the carpet and generally making life more complicated. He was also perfect. Watching Lily train Thunder with the patience of someone who'd wanted this for months, watching Evelyn sit on the floor playing with a puppy despite her expensive work clothes, Caleb felt something settle in his chest. This was family. Messy, loud, imperfect, and absolutely right. The week before the wedding, reality hit. Caleb woke up at 3 a.m. in a cold sweat, his brain suddenly cataloging every possible disaster. What if Evelyn changed her mind? What if he wasn't enough? What if he screwed up being a husband the way he sometimes screwed up being a father? What if Sarah's memory made him unable to fully commit to someone new? He sat on the edge of the bed, head in his hands, trying to breathe through the panic. His phone lit up with a text. Can't sleep either? How did you know I was awake? Because I know you. And because I'm having my own 3 a.m. freak out. Want to talk about it? Your place or mine? Yours. I'm already in the car. 15 minutes later, Evelyn was sitting on his couch in sweatpants and an old law school hoodie, looking as anxious as he felt. Okay, she said. You first. What's the panic about? Everything. Nothing. I don't know. What if I'm not good at being married? What if I can't be what you need? And I'm worried I'm too rigid, too focused on work, too damaged for my parents to know how to do this right. She pulled her knees up to her chest. I'm terrified I'm going to wake up one day and you'll realize you made a mistake. That's not going to happen. You don't know that? I do, though, because I've seen you with Lily. I've seen you learn how to let people in. I've watched you choose us over and over again, even when it's inconvenient or complicated. That's not someone who's going to fail at this. Evelyn's eyes were bright with tears. And I've watched you rebuild your life from nothing. I've seen you be a father and a friend and the kind of person who stops in rainstorms. You're not going to fail either. So why are we both panicking? Because it matters. Because we're not stupid kids who think love conquers everything. We're adults who know relationships take work and sometimes they fall apart anyway. We're scared because we have something real to lose. Caleb moved closer, pulling her against him. So what do? We get married anyway. We do the work. We mess up and forgive each other and keep trying. We build something that's stronger than our fear. That simple? That complicated. But yeah, also that simple. They stayed on the couch until dawn, talking through fears and hopes and all the messy reality of two people choosing to build a life together. By the time the sun came up, the panic had settled into something more manageable. Not gone, but acknowledged and accepted. 1 week, Evelyn said as she left for work. 1 week and you're stuck with me forever. Can't wait. Me neither, even though I'm still terrified. Me too, but I'd rather be terrified with you than safe without you. You said that before, the night you told me you loved me. It's still true. It's always going to be true. The wedding day arrived with perfect winter clarity, cold but sunny, the kind of December day that felt like the universe giving its blessing. Caleb spent the morning with Lily, both of them getting ready while thunder chewed on everything within reach and generally made chaos. How do you feel? Lily asked while struggling with her flower girl dress, purple, naturally, with enough tulle to supply a small ballet company. Nervous? Excited? Ready? That's good. Those are all good feelings for a wedding day. She turned around. Zip me? He zipped up the dress, looking at his daughter in the mirror. She was growing up so fast. In a few years, she'd be a teenager, then eventually an adult with her own life. But for now, she was 7 and wearing a purple dress and about to be part of something that would change all their lives. I'm proud of you, he said quietly. For what? For being brave. For letting Evelyn in. For being the kind of kid who demands dogs and purple hammers and makes everything better just by being yourself. Lily turned and hugged him hard. I'm proud of you too, Dad, for stopping in the rain, for finding Evelyn, for being happy again. At the courthouse, transformed after hours into something almost magical with flowers and candles, and Lily's insistence on purple decorations, their small gathering of family waited. Evelyn's sister, Caleb's mother-in-law, Judge Morrison, who would officiate, and a handful of close friends who'd earned their place in this moment. Caleb stood at the front of Judge Cross's chambers, soon to be Evelyn's chambers officially, again after she'd temporarily recused herself from any association with the room for the ceremony, with his hands shaking and his heart trying to escape through his ribs. Then Evelyn appeared in the doorway. She wore a simple ivory dress, nothing elaborate, just clean lines and elegant simplicity. With her hair loose around her shoulders, she carried a small bouquet of purple roses. She looked nothing like the stern judge who'd presided over his trial, and everything like the woman who'd shivered in a rainstorm and trusted a stranger to help her. She looked like his future. Lily walked ahead, scattering flower petals with the serious concentration of someone entrusted with an important mission. When she reached Caleb, she whispered loudly, "Don't mess this up, Dad." "I'll do my best." Then Evelyn was standing next to him, and Judge Morrison was beginning the ceremony with words about love and commitment and the courage it takes to choose partnership. Marriage is an act of faith, Morrison said. A promise made before witnesses that you will choose each other day after day, even when it's difficult. Caleb and Evelyn have asked to write their own vows, so Caleb, whenever you're ready. Caleb turned to face Evelyn fully, taking her hands. He'd written vows, rehearsed them, revised them, practiced until he could recite them perfectly. But standing there looking at her, he abandoned the script. Evelyn, I stopped in a rainstorm because it was the right thing to do. I had no agenda, no expectation of reward. I just wanted to help someone who needed it. I had no idea that decision would lead here, that you would become the person I can't imagine living without. You saved my life in that courtroom. You gave me back my daughter, my future, everything that mattered. But more than that, you gave me yourself, your strength, your intelligence, your terrible coffee, and your surprising softness. You chose us, me and Lily, and now Thunder, when you could have stayed safe in your organized, controlled life. I promise to be worth that choice. I promise to love you through hard days and good ones. I promise to let you take care of me sometimes, even though it's hard. I promise to build a life with you that honors both our past and our future. I promise to always stop in the rainstorm. Evelyn was crying, not even trying to hide it. Her hands trembled in his. Caleb, when my car broke down that night, I was convinced it was the worst possible timing. I was cold and frustrated and vulnerable, and then you appeared. And you were kind. Not performatively kind, but genuinely, quietly kind in a way I hadn't experienced in years. You refused payment. You asked for nothing. You just helped and drove away. And when I walked into that courtroom and saw you sitting there, I had to make the hardest choice of my career, acknowledge our connection and risk the case, or stay silent and ensure justice was served. I chose justice because that's what you deserved, but I also chose it because in that rainstorm you showed me who you really were. And that person deserved a fair trial, whether I was the one presiding or not. You've taught me that love doesn't have to be perfect to be real, that family isn't just blood, it's choice, that sometimes the best thing you can do is stop in a rainstorm. I promise to choose you every day. I promise to be the partner and stepmother and wife you and Lily deserve. I promise to make terrible coffee and let you tease me about it. I promise to build a life that's messy and real and ours. I promise to always remember that you stopped when you could have kept driving. And I promise to spend the rest of my life being grateful that you did. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Judge Morrison cleared her throat, clearly emotional herself. The rings? Lily stepped forward, producing the rings with the gravity of someone handling state secrets. Caleb slipped Evelyn's wedding band onto her finger, platinum to match her engagement ring, simple and perfect. Evelyn did the same for him, her hand still shaking slightly. By the power vested in me by the state, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Caleb, you may kiss your bride. He did, pulling Evelyn close while their tiny audience applauded, and Lily cheered and Thunder barked from wherever he'd been confined to prevent wedding chaos. When they broke apart, Evelyn was laughing through tears. We did it! We really did. I'm Evelyn Mercer now. How does it feel? Perfect. Absolutely perfect. The dinner afterward was small and warm, the Italian restaurant they'd eaten at on their first date, a private room with too much wine and too much laughter and toasts that made everyone cry. Caleb's mother-in-law gave a speech about how Sarah would have loved Evelyn and how proud she was of the family they were building. Rebecca told embarrassing stories about Evelyn's teenage years that made Lily laugh so hard she nearly fell off her chair. And Lily, when given a chance to speak, stood up with her juice glass raised and said, I'm really glad Dad stopped in the rain, because now we have Evelyn and Thunder and we're a real family. Also, being a flower girl is really fun, and I think I want to do it professionally when I grow up. Late that night, after the dinner and the goodbyes and the drive back to what was now their shared house, they decided to stay in Caleb's place since it had more room for a growing family and an energetic puppy. Caleb found Evelyn in Lily's room. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, watching their daughter sleep with an expression of such tenderness, it made Caleb's chest ache. Hey, he whispered from the doorway. You okay? More than okay, I can't believe this is my life now, that I get to be her mom, your wife, part of this family. Believe it, you're stuck with us. Good. She stood, moving quietly to avoid waking Lily. Come on, husband. We have a very early flight tomorrow and we should probably sleep. The honeymoon was exactly what they needed. 3 days in a mountain cabin with no cell service and no responsibilities beyond each other. They hiked and cooked together and sat by the fire talking about everything and nothing. They made love like people who had all the time in the world and woke up tangled together with sunlight streaming through the windows. On the last morning, lying in bed while Evelyn traced patterns on his chest, Caleb said something he'd been thinking for weeks. I don't think I ever properly thanked Sarah. For what? For teaching me how to love like this, how to be a partner, how to stop in rainstorms and help strangers and believe that kindness matters. She made me who I am, and who I am is someone who got to meet you. Evelyn was quiet for a moment. I like to think she knows that wherever she is, she's glad you're happy. I think so too. And I think she'd like that Lily has a mom again, not a replacement, but someone who loves her fiercely. I do love her, so much it scares me sometimes. That's how you know it's real. They drove back to reality, to work and school, and Thunder's ongoing campaign to destroy every shoe in the house. But it felt different now. Official. Permanent. Real in ways it hadn't been before the ceremony and the vows and the legal documentation that made them a family in every sense. Lily had stayed with her grandmother during the honeymoon and had approximately 8 million things to tell them when they picked her up. Thunder learned to sit, kind of, and I made a new friend at school whose name is Jessica, and she has a hamster, and Grandma let me stay up late watching movies, and I missed you both so much even though it was only 3 days. In the car ride home, Lily sitting between them chattering away while Thunder dozed in the back, Caleb caught Evelyn's eye and saw his own contentment reflected there. This was it. This was everything he'd thought he'd lost when Sarah died. Not a replacement, but a new chapter. A different kind of happiness, built on foundations of kindness and choice, and two people deciding to stop in rainstorms, literal and metaphorical, for each other. 6 months later, on an ordinary Tuesday that felt extraordinary simply because it was theirs, Caleb came home from work to find Evelyn and Lily in the backyard with Thunder, who'd grown from a chaotic puppy into a slightly less chaotic adolescent dog. We have news, Lily announced the moment she saw him. Good news or bad news? The best news. Tell him, Evelyn. Evelyn stood brushing grass off her jeans with a smile that made Caleb's heart skip. I've been asked to speak at a judicial conference about integrity in the courtroom and the importance of demanding proper evidence verification. They want me to talk about your case, anonymously, of course, but about how demanding the truth saved an innocent man. That's incredible. It gets better, Lily interjected. Tell him the other thing. We're going to be featured in the State Bar Journal, an article about how one judge's insistence on proper procedure prevented a miscarriage of justice. Again, anonymous, but it means the system worked, that what we went through might help prevent it from happening to someone else. Caleb pulled her into a hug, overwhelmed by the full circle nature of it all. The trial that could have destroyed him was now a case study in doing things right. The woman who'd saved him was being recognized for her integrity. The nightmare had become a teaching moment. I'm so proud of you, he said into her hair. I'm proud of us. All of us. She pulled back to look at him. We took something terrible and made it matter. That's not nothing. That night, after Lily was asleep and Thunder was sprawled across the living room floor in the boneless way only dogs could achieve, Caleb and Evelyn sat on the porch with glasses of wine. Do you ever think about that night? Evelyn asked. The rainstorm? All the time. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd kept driving? Sometimes, but then I remember I didn't. I stopped. And everything that came after, every good thing, every hard thing, every moment that brought us here happened because I made that choice. Best decision you ever made? Second best. What was the first? Asking you to marry me in a hardware store while our daughter watched. Evelyn laughed, the sound carrying across the quiet neighborhood. That was pretty good. It was perfect. We're perfect. Not individually, we're both disasters in our own ways, but together, We're exactly right. She leaned against him, fitting into his side like she was made to be there. I love you, Caleb Mercer. I love your terrible coffee and your tendency to fix things that aren't broken. I love that you stopped in a rainstorm. I love our chaotic life. I love you, Evelyn Mercer. I love your terrible cooking and your judge voice. I love that you demanded forensic verification. I love that you're here. They sat like that until the stars came out. Two people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way possible and built something real from rainstorms and courtrooms and hardware store proposals. Inside, Thunder barked at something only he could see. Lily called out in her sleep, something about hammers and dogs and family. The house settled around them with the comfortable creaks of a place that was lived in and loved. And Caleb thought about circles, how they close, how they complete, how sometimes the end of one story is just the beginning of another. He'd stopped in a rainstorm for a stranger. That stranger had saved his life. That savior had become his wife. And now, sitting on a porch with the woman he loved and the family they'd built together, Caleb understood that some decisions echo forever. Some choices ripple outward in ways you can't predict. Some moments of kindness return to you multiplied. He'd stopped because it was the right thing to do. He'd gained everything because he did. And if given the choice again, knowing everything that would come after, every hard moment and every beautiful one, he'd make the same decision in a heartbeat. He'd always stop in the rainstorm. He'd always choose kindness. He'd always choose love. Because that's what brought him here, to this porch, with this woman, in this life that was messy and complicated and absolutely perfect in all its imperfection. Thunder barked again, this time demanding to be let out. Lily appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from her eyes, asking for water and reassurance that everyone was still there. Evelyn stood to handle it, kissing Caleb's forehead as she passed. "Welcome to forever," she whispered. "Best forever I could have asked for," he whispered back. And it was. It really, truly was. The rain had stopped years ago, but the life it started was just beginning. And Caleb Mercer, once broke and desperate, and facing a future that looked like nothing but loss, now had everything that mattered. A wife who chose justice and love with equal fierceness. A daughter who demanded purple hammers and golden retrievers and never stopped believing in happy endings. A dog who was chaos incarnate but belonged to them completely. A home that was loud and full and real. He'd stopped in a rainstorm and found his way home.